Hello. How's everyone doing? Okay, cool. I always get that like little anxiety before switching the scene. Like, shit, did I set up the camera correctly and everything? Who knows? I'll discover it. Yo, I just got this random craving to like open Magic the Gathering packs. Seriously though, like, okay, someone told me this recently. I want to check if it's true. Someone, I was talking about play NTG Arena. I could actually play a little bit of it. I was talking about loot boxes with someone, and they said, they claimed that, what was like the first game, the first like Western mainstream game that had loot boxes? I think it was TF2. Not sure. Let me just read this wiki page real quick. Loot boxes, the history. The first known instance of a loot box system is believed to be an item called Gachapon Ticket, which was introduced in the Japanese version of MapleStory. Oh yeah, that's why I also specified Western. God, anyone remember MapleStory? I used to play it a little bit. I didn't get very far. Man. Yeah. Asia was so far ahead of us on the monetization schemes. In Western regions, the video game industry saw the success of Zynga and other large publishers of social network games. With microtransactions, blah. Another early game with loot box mechanics was Team Fortress 2. Valve's Robin Walker stated that the intent was to create network effects that would draw more players to the game. And hired Yanis Varoufakis. Is that the guy that was from, like, Wizards of the Coast? No, that's an economist. Oh, yeah, never mind. And politician. Hey, Hockey Bull. How are you doing? Hockey Bull. I played MapleStory 2, but I was a child, so I only got to, like, level 30. Yeah, same. I think I stopped at, like, level... I stopped earlier than you. I think I stopped at, like, level 15 or something. That's the former financial minister of Greece. Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty insane, because, like, when you think video games, you don't think like legitimate politicians. You don't think of, like, you know, Obama after being president, he's gonna get hired by Activision Blizzard, you know? That's not quite yet the paradigm of how that shit works, but apparently it is actually. Yeah. In December 2018, Varoufakis launched the Progressive International with United States Senator Bernie Sanders. Damn, he's still doing politics. Varoufakis is kind of based. Looks like it. Oh, Turnit, I wanted to tell you, okay, first I'm gonna read the other messages. Quests where so feels dumb, man. Kill 20 slimes, kill 20 slightly stronger slimes, kill 20 very strong slimes. Okay, now go back and kill 200 of the weak slimes again. Yeah, I know. It was so bad. The real-life politician running for EVE Online's in-game... Oh, yeah, EVE Online is so far ahead of the game. Pun intended, in those ways. It's indeed unusual to have politicians that are actually qualified for their job. That is true as well. I was gonna say, Turnit, I got the... I got this lady who knocked on my door. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday during the day. Basically representing like a communist party thing. I decided to buy the newspaper she was selling. I'm gonna read it at some point and see if there's anything interesting to comment. And you fuck no, we did not. She seemed really stoked to talk to someone who was willing to actually listen. Apparently, like outside of the politics stuff, they're running like they're running like a humanitarian type thing. French still read newspapers? No, they don't. I don't think she's had that much success, honestly. I don't know. Progressive International is an international organization uniting and mobilizing progressive left-wing activists and organizations. The organization labels itself as aiming for a democratic, decolonized, just, egalitarian, liberated, solidaristic, sustainable, ecological, peaceful, post-capitalist, prosperous, and plural society. How many more? I think this description is lacking in adjectives. I think you can put in some effort. Throw in a few more, okay? Launched after the Democracy in Europe movement and the Sanders Institute announced an is that even a sentence? Announced an open call for progressive forces to form a united front. Formally founded and launched on the 11th of May amidst the global coronavirus pandemic, the International claims to counter what it calls the resurgence of authoritarian nationalism worldwide, as well as the rise of disaster capitalism. Cool. I don't want to be that guy, but that sounded like the lefty politics version of an SJW Twitter profile. Yeah, yeah. That's why I was making fun, like the run-on sentence with like 10 adjectives. It's not a criticism of what they're doing, but it's a poorly written wiki article. Let's go with that. Varfakis taught economics and econometrics at the University of Essex and the University of East Anglia, and also taught at the University of Cambridge. He researched the virtual economy on the Steam digital delivery platform, specifically looking at exchange rates and trade deficits. Ooh, is he I guess he's the reason why they it's a mouthful, yeah. I guess he's the reason why they fixed like the stuff where like buying games in rubles was super cheap, or I don't know. Oh, he was at the center of the 2015 Greek crisis. Interesting. I need to read up on that, like with some hindsight. Cambridge. Okay. I wonder if I could find the source on that gambling concerns. I wonder if I can find the source on that that thing that dude told me, that it's like a Wizards of the Coast developer who moved into who got hired by Valve to and like pushed the idea of loot boxes. Is this pepe hepe? The way Roser uses it, for me, pepe hepe is a happy emote. It's not a sad emote. Your mileage may vary. I think the true power of pepe hepe is that it is whatever you want it to be. All right, you wanted Magic the Gathering. I could play Magic the Gathering, but because I mean I gotta just like stall for 40 minutes until I get on with Chinchilla, Elysium, and Senpai Chao. So I guess Magic is it. Actually, I wanted to watch this dumb video. In the line of cooking. Oh yeah, also another question. Would you guys want to watch me play catboy Nekopara? Cause as much as Catgirl Nekopara never really tempted me, this one seems pretty funny. It seems less lewd, is what I want to say. The fuck is 22 p.m.? I'm an idiot, yeah. What the fuck is 22 p.m.? That makes no sense. Forgive me, please. I updated the stream title. We got raided. Oh, I was reading... Hey, I want your input. I was reading... I don't know why I was reading it, because... Fuck knows I don't actually, like, care about it. But, oh, this is the Rust programming language. Okay, how do I find Rust game? Oh, don't include NSFW results, please. Rust game. Only 1,000... Okay, play Rust, that's the one. What is it with the... how salty the community is about the offline TV stuff? I don't know why I was going down this rabbit hole, to be perfectly honest. So apparently some like big Rust streamer got kicked from the offline TV server, and some others, and it's like you got this, this like people are saying like because offline TV hosts suck. They don't want actual Rust players, and you have that like spammed 50 million times. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's legitimate or not. I don't know if you guys like follow it or not. It just feels like dumb drama, I guess. Oh yeah, there's this message that's like spammed 20 fucking times in the entire thread. People are so fucking salty about it. I don't know. I was wondering if you guys had any input on it. Okay, cat boys. Do you want like a TLDR on voice real quick? Yeah. Give me. Where are you? Ah, fuck it, I'll just drag you into the Discord server. I'm way too grill-pilled to care about it. You should be grill-pilled. You should just keep on grilling rather than care about dumb like influencer drama. That's the base take, honestly. Hello. Yo. All right. Give us the DL. What's going on?
So first and foremost, before anyone says anything, this is 100% important, and everybody needs to take this seriously because Rust is serious business. Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, how familiar are you with like the first iteration of it?
I watched and really enjoyed the clips of the people like memeing around with musical instruments and like trolling each other, and that's about it.
From like the very first server, or just like as in this month?
No, the like first offline TV server.
Okay. So like the first one like went reasonably well. There was still like people complaining about like metagaming and dumb drama, but anyway, it was what it was. There was some people from like the Rust community sort of on the server, but not as many. And generally, the ones that were involved were kind of more like, for example, Ray C was like, he would like fly around in his minicopter and like pick people up and like give them lifts place and teach them how to do Bradley and stuff like that. So anyway, TLDR in terms of like this time around, they brought more people in from the Rust community. Obviously, the people that are streamers and are in the Rust community play Rust, so
yeah.
They know what the fuck they're doing. And I think there was like a reasonable mix of like people who didn't know how to play the game, kind of teamed up with people that knew what was going on. So basically the server was a PvP server, so people played the game, and yeah. There's a lot of people that are very much like Rust pros are killing the server, and honestly, I think it's just the fact that they've not decided what they want from the server, in the sense of, if you want people to be able to play like vanilla Rust, then you need to probably the way you would set it up, as I was talking about this before, is you would probably like split the map in half, and you would have like a safe zone on one side, and then a sort of like if you imagine like RuneScape where you have like the wildlands or whatever,
Mm.
kind of like that, where you've got stuff that if you want to be someone who's a little bit safer, have a base, kind of progress, get through the blueprints, etc., then you've got a base that you can do that and not get fucked up. And you can also do your RP stuff if you really want. But if you want to be like full Chad PvP, then obviously you basically build on the other side of the base. But there's nothing to stop you from basically then going between each zone.
Yeah.
So um, conversely, the other thing that they decide is that they just want the server to basically be people that don't know how to play Rust, and that this is their kind of. I don't like using safe space because it's not really appropriate for this, but like effectively their way to like experience Rust. But
I
in order to do that, they pretty much just need to say "fuck all y'all" in the Rust community, and this is our thing, sort of thing.
yeah, which obviously is gonna make a lot of people salty.
Yeah, and I mean, I think so. The problem that I've got is that or to go back to like the drama is that obviously there's always going to be the thing where both from a viewer standpoint and also a streamer standpoint, it's always going to be strange when someone comes into your community or
Mm.
your game and makes it popular and you don't get brought in. Um, because I mean, let's face it, it's like it feels really like exclusionary when you do that. Um, but at the same time, you have to put your big boy hat on and sit and think, right, if there's more eyes on it, then it means that it's more people that are going to eventually become my viewers, that are going to be part of my community, that are going to make my game better, that are going to make the game stronger, more sales, more development, yada 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 yada. But
Mm.
it's
Are you,
obviously a
are you
tough
arguing
pill to swallow that.
for a streamer trickle down effect?
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it
agree.
happens for sure.
Yeah.
Like, because like there was a lot of drama even about like certain kind of like non-Rust streamers like Poke and stuff like that getting drops like well before people that have been streaming Rust and been part of the Rust community for like 5 to 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, I
But
saw that in the thread too. A few people were mentioning the like skins and drops and being really salty about it as well.
yeah. And again, it's one of those things. It's like it's both. You can see both sides. It is very much a case of yeah, it fucking sucks if you're like. But at the end of the day, like you'll probably get it. It's just that there's a priority from a game dev to try and bring in new people, and that's the
Mm.
way to do it. It's not necessarily to actually support the fucking people that are part of their community sometimes, which is a shitty way of dealing with reality, I suppose. But
You know what it reminds me of? The realization at some point in my life that I was likelier to like do something nice for someone I barely knew or I knew like didn't particularly care about me just because I wanted them to care make them care about me and like taking my like close friends and people like that for granted. Are Rust players in an abusive relationship with with the developer?
so like the really weird thing is, and I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna like make out like I'm somehow like part of the Rust community in any way, shape, or form. I literally like started playing again like a couple of months ago, so it's not like my game, so to
Mm.
speak. But like, um, from the outside, it feels like they're like so much closer to the community than a lot of game devs. I mean, for one, they even actually physically play their own fucking game, as in like they'll go in to servers and like ban people.
Wait,
And
that's dev abuse. What the fuck? There's got to be drama around that, right?
so apparently, I was actually just finding out about this the other day. Is that apparently a long time ago they gave a couple of content creators like kind of server, not even necessarily server admin, but like server mod or something like that. I think so that they could effectively use some of the tools to be able to like create, obviously, like cinematics and things like that for
Mm.
content. And I think like one or two people like abused it by like they were getting, and it's one of those awkward ones where like they were probably getting stream sniped. Oh no, in fact, the big drama I think was apparently that the guy thought he was getting stream sniped and he wasn't, and he basically banned someone using those abilities, so they ended up pulling it away. So basically, like the one of the complaints is that the kind of quote unquote like official face punch servers are lacking in admins, and that's because the devs didn't trust people after that point. But yeah, in terms of the actual devs themselves, I don't know of any major drama. At least it's never like hit up big enough for me to be aware of it, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, even just like having things like the drops are super fucking cool. I mean, how sick would it be to basically, play a game and then have something physically like designed by an artist for you and then put in the game? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, that was the extent of it. So I
All
don't know
right.
about the specifics other than I know that they're kind of doing in fact, is it today? It's either today or tomorrow, I think, that they're doing like this Wild West where it's like pythons, which is a revolver, bows, arrows, satchels, which is like low tech explosives. And that's like it. But it's gonna die super quick. Because they rather than doing like the vanilla experience and just like continually refining the rules until they get something that works, I think they're just going to get desperate and like try all these fucking dumb things, like when they split the servers into two the first time around
Yeah.
to like RP and PvP. So, yeah, it's a shame because it was fun as fuck watching it the first time around.
Yeah, I imagine. It's also weird, like since I don't play the game and I don't really like necessarily care about the game's mechanics as much as I enjoy watching you play, but it's because like it's like chill and I'm watching you like do random stuff. I don't really care that much about like what you're out looting and farming for or what you're gonna build. I feel well, for someone like me, like what you described earlier, a server full of new players just doing dumb shit and fucking around and like not doing things the correct way sounds really fun. But for anyone who actually knows the game, that sounds really infuriating.
I think it's one of those things again. It's like they can both work as long as like the problem I have like with the RP stuff is it's kind of like see when you go into like Minecraft and you know how there was like the shit where people were like starting to try and do like PvP in Minecraft and it's like the game isn't set up
Mm.
effectively for that style of gameplay. So to try and force something like that within that game world, it's like, why would you not just use something that's more appropriate? But in terms of Rust, like there's so much stuff in there that theoretically works for roleplay that you can very much like have, I guess, to a certain extent, the GTA 5 RP experience or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about like the server being like geared towards that. It's a bit weird when you get people that are trying to do their role play in the middle of like people going hard as fuck, like playing like playing regular Rust. But
Um,
yeah, I can see what you're saying is effectively like you want the clips, like you want the funny clips. You don't want the kind of like you would watch like a StarCraft game versus seeing like Artosis smash his desk or something.
yeah, exactly. I don't care that much about the like watching the base rate and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like I kind of enjoyed both in the first time around. There was some good like RP memes, and then there was other stuff like seeing the XQC roam around and doing his thing. But yeah, I don't think they've worked it out yet. And of course, there's so much fucking pressure on like Abe, who's obviously kind of running the show, and
Mhm.
it's a weird one because like I wonder um like what's your investment level as a person in the sense of like are you technically getting paid or are you getting enough out of this to actually justify all the fucking heartache that you're going through?
I mean, honestly, considering the amount of work and the fact that so many streamers are just making money off of it, and those are all like professional streamers who make like 5 figures a month, I'm he had the people are like working on the servers have to be getting paid. It would be so hard for me to imagine them not getting paid.
I mean, I would hope, but it's one of those weird ones where, like, definitely for everyone involved, other than Abe, 100%, it's one, it's easy. They show up and they basically get, exposure.
Yeah.
Plus, they probably do get paid to play, I would imagine, to a certain extent. I know that I think the only thing I do know is I think Face Punch are like providing like the servers and sort of helping with some of the setup and stuff like that. I just don't know about the specifics behind that as far as whether it's worth it. It's kind of like, how sometimes when you get like these community run tournaments and like there's a big prize pool out of it, but the people that are organizing it are basically just volunteers. So like there's absolutely fucking nothing in it for them other than, the love of what they're doing. But yet everybody else, it's a no brainer, right?
Yeah, I could totally see that happening for sure. And it's possible that that even like Abe himself is like paid and well, not paid basically.
Yeah,
Because just because there's like 20 people who would be willing to step in his shoes just to get closer to their like famous streamer people.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the big issue is obviously is that like people are getting sort of sometimes like low key removed in terms of like they're just like, okay, this is not really working. Let's remove, these people from the server. And then I think there's some more drama ones where it's like they did this and they've been kicked in and they go to fucking Twitter. Like I don't know the specifics of it, but I seen Spoon Kid, who's like one of the kind of guys that's like way more sort of like funny and kind of like doing dumb shit. He doesn't really like go hard in the game, and I think it was something like he get kicked from the server for fuck, I forget what his tweet was, but it was like really dumb, and it's like of all people to get booted, like he's definitely not like a quote unquote Rust pro.
Yeah, he's not like the hardcore no life PvPer who's just like
Fucking
murdering
Beamer.
everyone. Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
All right. Thanks for
Yeah, I was gonna say
telling us.
I've gate crashed enough, so I think I've done my job.
Yeah. Thanks for telling us what to think about this very important happening right now. Okay.
Yes, everything I said was 100% the only way to view this situation, and if you think anything different, then debate me. All right, thanks very much. Enjoy your stream. Catch you later.
All right. See you. I huffing ether on stream. This is what I think of anime streamers. What the fuck? All right. Wait, Gehentio, you said something about DayZ. Oh yeah, I remember me and my squad getting banned from multiple DayZ servers because we would run into that Sacriel Duder squad, absolutely murder them, and then he went to the admins crying stream snipers. Yeah. Closing on my new home loan tomorrow, dropping interest. Good job, Eric. You adulting. Yeah, but it's online content creators in response to the, like, they must be getting paid, right? Yeah. I honestly... Yeah, it sucks that you have to actually wonder. Like, who was it? I think it was Hassan who had an editor that he was paying in exposure or some dumb shit like that. Yeah. I play a shooty game too. Look, Overwatch is actually first-person league. Debate me. Change my mind. I know it's the fact that name implied. No, I never implied that. Now I'm implying it, but yesterday I didn't imply that. Yesterday I was just saying that Nept is like super good at StarCraft. Loki, I actually really don't like Sacriel. It annoys the fuck out of me when people get successful that you don't like. It is what it is. He paid in PC parts. That's like a bit of a yikes, because then you that's actually a big yikes. It's like it can work out for the people, but because you like know what happens behind when someone's paying you in like PC parts, you know what's happening is they're deducting the PC parts from their revenue as an expense. You're getting non-fungible assets that if you need them for anything else, you can't do anything else with them. Of course, if you are gonna buy those parts anyways, it's kind of a wash, but still. Better to be paid in exposure than the streamer exposing himself to you. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I would agree. I would agree that getting paid in exposure is probably better than being sexually harassed. You said you're getting into shooting games when you thought he was going to play Valorant. Oh, right. Yeah. No, honestly, that's because I have this toxic mentality where, like, Overwatch is totally an FPS, and I'm totally, like, a dipshit for suggesting it isn't. But it's kind of, it's like, it's just different. Overwatch is built different, okay? There's so much stuff you do in Overwatch that is skill-based that has nothing to do with FPS mechanics. Whether it's managing your abilities and ultis, which is straight out of fucking league understanding, and that's cool, and it is cool. Like, it's absolutely not a criticism. You mean like Valorant? Well, the thing is, Valorant is that, but it's so much closer to CS:GO. Valorant is basically like CS:GO. You can't really. I'm not entirely sure, but I think Hassan unironically said that the editor owned the means of his production because he got the PC. Oh no, no, that's not how it works. See, the only way that works is if Hassan shared the YouTube channel with his editors. Something like I know a lot of streamers do that. Destiny has been open about it. He gets Destiny gets 40% of the revenue off of his YouTube videos, and his editors get 60% of the revenue. Like, that is the editors owning the means of production. The means of production is the YouTube channel, and the editors are literally getting a 60% share. Not just revenue sharing, but also some say in the direction. Yeah, well, in that case, well, yeah, exactly, and like, well, they have the responsibility for how it's shown. Rocking the Vegeta hairline, exactly. Yeah, how are you doing, Ultima? I hadn't talked to you in a while. I see you're getting influenced by Eric's Dragon Ball marathon. You're talking about Vegeta. How's life? Pretty good. I can see your 3 chest hairs. Yep. There they are, all 3 of them. Also, the camera's not that good. I have a bit more. I don't have like a hairy chest, but I have more hairs than that. Okay. How's life? Pretty good. Been streaming a lot. Started working on a project as a freelancer since yesterday. Some like front-end web development. It's pretty cool. Pretty funny. Pretty funny what the like previous contractors did. They got fired after three days because they couldn't fucking. I don't remember if you're a recruiter or not. Basically, they couldn't fucking. It took them 3.5 days to get a Docker image to work. They couldn't fucking push. Like make commits to Git because they couldn't understand an error message, and then after 3.5 days they finally submitted a merge request. The merge request was empty. Also, to be fair, Valorant's core gameplay was surely just straight up copied from CS:GO and then expanded upon. Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit memey to call Overwatch different when you compare it to a game and a copy of that game. Yeah, exactly. Overwatch is Team Fortress 2, basically. The story of the empty PR. Spooky. Yeah, very spooky. I didn't know it was even possible to make an empty PR with no changes, but it is. It really is. But yeah. Hey, Dark is my soul. How are you doing? The PR is coming from inside the repo. Looking good. You know, you're looking good. Okay, serious talk. Should I play Catboy Nekopara? Because from what I can tell, it's not like the original Nekopara, the Catgirl one, has some like really lewd content, right? It's not streamable. Right, why is Steam releasing Switch? Or rather, if it's releasing a Switch, can it play Switch games? And if not, why would you ever buy it? What the fuck is this? This is my first time seeing this. Alright. Nekopara. Wait, it's free? Oh my god, it's free! Alright. Hell yeah, we're getting it. Such value, yeah. I have to try it out. Okay, because I'm pretty sure... I'm pretty sure Nekopara goes into some... yeah, sexual content. I'm pretty sure you should never ever stream it on Twitch. Cats can't consent. No, they cannot. That is true. Wow, cool loli. Wow, yeah. Look, there's a I remember from the Seth review of this game. There's a breast size slider, so you can make her into a not loli. Sorry for that. Some people do. I don't know which Nekopara though. I guess there's one of them that, or several of them that don't have sexual content. I don't know. Apparently the Catboy one is not. It doesn't have the sexual content tags, so I'm gonna assume. Yeah, otome, visual novel, casual adventure, cute, female protagonist, anime, relaxing, single player, indie, FPS, psychological horror. What? How is this psychological horror? What the fuck? There's no way this game's psychological horror. Someone thought it was Doki Doki Literature Club. Me when the hentai DLC is up. Okay. This is going to be Pepe Hepe. Nice. This one works as Pepe Hepe. I think it does. Because when you turn off the game, you realize there are no cute cat boys to tend to you. True. Why live in a world without cat boys? Obligatory meme coming soon.
You don't understand! If Filtrum takes over, Earth will finally have the technology required to make genetically modified anime girls! Think, Mark! They will live as long as us, because we will use Filtrumite DNA to make
Yeah, I watched this. It's so good.
All the bunny girls
I can't wait for season 2.
You could ever want! Everything and everyone you know will be anime. Real anime tits! In 500 years!
This edit is so fucking good. Anyways. Yeah, Invincible is so good, dude. My mind was blown. Honestly, I did not expect... It doesn't look like it should be good. Or, it doesn't look like it should be that good. But it is. Shit. I have... Alright. I have, the podcast is in quite exactly 9 minutes, and this video is 12 minutes long. So... I think what we're gonna do... I did fast forward through some parts. Sounds like a perfect 1.5, true.
If this works, this is the coolest thing. Please work. Hi, I'm Alexis, and I'm the Senior Food Specialist here at Tasty. Last time, my coworkers challenged me to make a 3-course meal using only a coffee maker. I'm expecting the worst, but
Another
let's see what they
lib
have in store
debate,
this
yeah.
time.
This time over universal basic income. We're gonna discuss UBI. Which, honestly, I'm not that strong. I'm not for UBI in most of the ways it's implemented.
Oh no.
Or it's proposed. Sorry, it's not implemented. It's proposed.
But what am I gonna do? Any good chef should be able to cook with anything. So luckily, I have ironed many clothes before. But let's take a look. The first instruction is use iron only for its intended use. So don't try this at home. Let's see what the internet has to say. Who are these people that test this out? Okay, so this is clearly a thing. So I'm gonna see if I can elevate clothing iron cooking just a little bit. For the first course, I'm gonna try to make a flatbread with like a caramelized shallot dip. So because my dough for the flatbread needs to sit, I'm going to get started with that. I'm gonna do a really easy 2-ingredient flatbread. It's basically just Greek yogurt and self-rising flour. Self-rising flour has baking powder in it, so you don't need to add anything else.
Unironically, an iron is probably really good for cooking stuff because you got the water, like water vapor.
For the second course, I'm going to make couscous and lamb chops. I'm going to marinate my lamb chops
Wait,
so
what
this
the
can get
fuck?
really flavorful, and hopefully it'll mask the fact that they are being cooked on iron.
How do
This is gonna be
you...
really simple. It's just garlic, rosemary, oil, salt, pepper.
Wait. How do you
I got
cook
these
couscous
tiny
with
little
an
lamb
iron?
chops. And I thought, like, if steak can be done, so could a lamb chop, and you want them to be on the medium rare side, so this actually could work. Also, if you look at the chop compared to the iron, it's pretty perfect. So I'm just gonna blop these so that the marinade sticks better to it. So these are ready. I'm going to wash my hands, cover them, and refrigerate them. Thank you for the refrigerator. For dessert, I'm going to try to make a crepe cake, but I'm not using a recipe. It's just like beat an egg, add a little flour, add a little milk, and just do it until you get a smooth consistency. So my mom's Dutch, because I grew up with crepes or in Dutch pannenkoeken. She never followed a recipe, so yeah, this is like my Sunday mornings as a kid. Hi, Mom. So I'm gonna do a few more rounds, but that should be good. I'm gonna put it on the linen.
I've been eating a stroopwafel the past 2 days during it. Are you proud of me?
What do I do?
She's just gonna use it like a
I don't know.
boilerplate, probably.
I don't know what's gonna work. It's cooking.
A refrigerator isn't an iron.
This is not gonna work.
But it's not cooking it, right? Or if it's in the refrigerator.
You guys see this? Pretty perfect. It would be really
Yeah,
helpful to
she's
have
literally
one
gonna
of
use
these.
it.
I just wanna say that.
Yeah,
Little
she's
butter.
gonna just use it as a boilerplate at this point. Yeah.
Mold. It looks like it's cooking around the very edge. The crepes might be a little thick, but who minds a thick crepe?
Stroopwafel is alright. Haven't eaten it in a while. I just like I really like them when there's honey inside. I'm not a fan of the caramel ones, but
It's a bit raw.
yeah, it looks raw.
A little thinner.
You can tell it's raw.
Technically, a hand mixer is an appliance, which I cannot use. I'm hand whipping cream, which is not my favorite activity. Look at that brown. It's happening. Oh yeah, got one done. This is so weird that it's actually making the coffee maker seem like kind of normal and easy. I can't believe I'm saying that I rather cook with a coffee maker. We get very reliant on our appliances and tools, and it's good to be like, you know, we can make great food with very little. Okay, I'm going to add a little sugar.
I haven't eaten many sweets in a
I mean,
while.
this whipped
Okay.
cream looks really pretty.
Because like on a
Oh,
diet
no.
or
Oh,
just
no.
not this. Oh.
It's salt. Okay, it's fine.
Nice.
Salt over here.
Oh, nice. Imagine preparing cream and putting salt in it. Oh god.
Okay, it's sugar. Finally, whipped cream. It's delicious.
That would
I've
be
been
an
making
interesting
this for
taste.
2 hours now, but I think I can actually start building it. They're a little lopsided, so getting the cream even is going to be a journey. You know, I'm really happy that the crepes actually worked. I was really skeptical when I first did that parchment paper thing, which was a mistake. This is the cutest thing I've ever seen. Next up are the shallots. I'm just going to keep it on linen. That feels like the best move. Since I can't use real pots or pans, I'm going to try to fashion one out of tinfoil. It's like a little shallot boat. I just want a burner. Not asking for much, just a regular burner. So usually when I would make this, I would actually broil the onions, but let's see how this goes.
Dietish, but hopefully just continuing this forever.
Sounds
Gotta
good.
up my calories
While those
soon
are doing
again
their
though.
thing,
Okay.
Can get the rest ready. It's really easy. Sour cream, mayonnaise, a little thyme for some extra flavor. Adding the lemon here for some acidity, some lemon zest. So the shallots are starting to become a little aromatic. They're getting some browning, which looks really great, but I don't think they're gonna get deeply caramelized. I think for this, just a little golden brown. If I can get that, that'll be fine. I mean, I think this is the problem with cooking with an iron. You can't.
Oh, they're
really
looking
do it,
fine.
And you're so limited by like linen, cotton, wool. My dough for flatbread
You're
is
limited by
really
linen,
pretty.
cotton,
So my
wool.
idea with the flatbread is that I can make it really thin, and then it'll have a better chance.
Gotta find the
of
highest heat setting.
Cooking through and crisping up. Okay, this is very thin.
If I was a good cook, I would be so fat.
If this works, this is the coolest thing. Please work. I'm gonna roll out a few more. I don't know. I mean, the coffee maker is really hard, but since then I've just been like dreaming of.
If
all these
I
other
wasn't
things I can make, and
lazy,
this feels
I would be
really
so
scary.
fat.
It's starting to bubble. Do you see it? Okay, it's the tiniest fleck of browning. I just need like a few brown spots and then I can flip it. There are brown spots. Thank you. I'm just gonna put the dip into the bowl, gonna add a few chives
looks
on top,
too
just a little bit
thick
of extra
for
color, put the flatbread
that
next to it,
situation.
and we're done.
I'll the range tomorrow,
We're
by
gonna
the
move
way.
on to couscous.
Oh, yeah.
Use
Yeah,
measuring
good
cup
idea.
And heat the water on top of the iron. So usually when you make couscous, well, always when you make couscous, you want to bring the water to a boil. I don't think that's quite going to happen here, but I think I can get the water to be pretty warm. I'm gonna add some peas to the couscous. Just
Why?
to give it some more body.
No.
It's honestly heating up really fast. Makes me think it won't come to full boil, but then it
No.
could get significantly hot. So
You
I'm gonna
don't
let
make
it go for a few
couscous
minutes,
with
just toss some
peas.
Scallions and parsley, which can be mixed with the couscous. I just added a little salt,
Oh.
pepper, and olive oil just to give it a little more flavor as it cooks. Okay, I think this
The
is ready.
fuck?
We can do it.
Classic Frenchman? Yeah, because
This
there's like a million people who are
Hopefully,
originally
in 5 minutes
from
this will
North Africa here in France,
I feel like my confidence level
who
is
like
a
make
solid
authentic,
6 right
who
now.
make authentic
I'm just gonna
like
fluff this couscous a little. It absorbed the water.
Maghreb
Not
couscous.
quite cooked through.
They don't make it with peas.
Hope this isn't a mistake. Hot. Steam. They're super thin, so hopefully this is gonna help my cause. Let's see if this works.
Just get a girlfriend and you can be lazy and get fat. What if she's lazy? What if she doesn't want to cook? What do you mean?
Browned outside, or if it's just gonna look kind of.
Also, everyone knows being a good
Okay,
cook
something's happening. So this
is
little
very
bit of-
sexy.
Kind of slowly but surely. Okay. I think maybe I just need to let.
So like, salsa on you.
Okay. Just gonna go like that. Let's take another peek. I mean, it's kind
Honestly-
of browned. The backside's a little gray. You can touch that up, but this side looks pretty good.
The meat is probably going to be the
Let's see,
best
this
best cooked
couscous.
part of this, right?
It's cooked. It's cooked. Oh my god, thank god. So I'm gonna add the couscous back to the scallions, parsley.
I'm
this little
still
top
like really
is
shocked about
on
the
next.
peas.
And then
That's just
let's go.
not.
I'm gonna wrap it up, plate everything. I've texted one of my friends, Nikki, and she's gonna come up and try this. But
Spin
she
those
doesn't know that
plates.
I've made it completely with an iron. Why are you so nervous?
Being a good cook is sexy,
Did you, like,
yes.
make it in a vacuum cleaner or something? Is this the appliance?
But I like mega simple
This is your
food.
first
Mega
course.
simple
There's
food
a
is
flatbread
good,
and
yeah.
shallot dip.
Yeah, delicious. So fine.
Your second course is couscous with peas and lamb chops.
Wow, lamb chops? It's a little dry, but let's do this. Yes,
That's honestly the move.
delicious. Well done.
And your third course is a mini cream cake.
Oh, I love it. She's beautiful. This is only for me?
Yeah, it's only for you.
my
Go
God.
crazy.
Well, in that case, she's dense.
She is dense.
Delicious.
Okay, so you're right. This is the appliance show. Do you want to guess?
Is this something weird?
Turn around.
Not a vacuum cleaner. It's an iron? You ironed all of this? Did you just... Well done. Lamb intimidates me even when I have a whole kitchen. but
I
you
don't know.
did it.
The fact that got a second date next week. Nice. Good job, Turnit. Hope it goes well. Honestly, the fact that like obviously it would have been way harder, but the fact that she gets to use the iron as just a boilerplate makes it feel kind of cheap. Honestly, I don't feel like. I feel like she could have. She like just found a loophole. You know what I mean? He's gonna talk about the peas again. No, I'm not. Look, I actually am. Now that you mention it, I actually am. Look, dude. Look at this. Look at this amazing, delicious meal. There's no peas in it. There shouldn't be any peas in it. Look at this. All colorful, plenty of veggies, and no peas. It's literally that one Italian chef going, not like this at people making carbonara, true. Do you just expect everyone to appease you? I literally see chickpeas already. Yes, chickpeas. Not green peas, not peas. Chickpeas are something else. But yes, there's lots of chickpeas in it, and chickpeas are good and work really well in this. Oh, this is like bigger couscous. Alright, anyways. It's, shit, I need to, go join Chinchilla. I'll be, well, I'll still be here, actually. I'll be right here. Hello.
Hi, what's up?
Not much. And you?
Much either. Just let me get this.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Nekopara Catboy's Paradise?
What the fuck? What the fuck are you talking about? Because I got the lo-fi hip hop like banging.
I was asking what are your thoughts on the Nekopara Catboy's Paradise? Are you familiar with the Nekopara games series?
Wait. Just give me a second so people can actually on the
Yeah.
stream because people are actually already talking.
Oh shit. Yeah, I
Um,
gotta open your stream too.
So let's transition. Are you guys? You guys already here? What's up, dudes? We can hear the dude on Discord. Yeah, you can. It's Neyman.
Hello.
It's the guy that watches like cringe anime, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I've met a girl that's into cosplay. Name.
Wait, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. As like a kink as well. So I think that's pretty cool, right?
As a kink? So you she's like into role playing the characters and like sexually or?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay, that's cool.
I think that's pretty cool as well.
It's
Yeah.
it probably makes for fun roleplay for sure. Depending on if you
Yeah.
share the same interests.
I mean, there are some limits to it. I don't. I wouldn't go as far as like in the full like DDLG like commitment stuff with the diapers and shit like that. That weirds me out, right?
What does DDLG
Okay.
stand for?
That's the daddy dom stuff.
Oh, okay, I see.
So yeah.
Hey, senpai.
Hey, senpai. What's up, Double?
Felt like a god.
As a god, did
Blood
you
coursing
did
through
you
my veins?
did you write like a paper in 1 hour? What happened?
No, it was work. I had to do stuff for work. But no, it wasn't a paper. But it was a report. I'm managing a spreadsheet. It's a lot of numbers.
Not a PDF.
Yeah.
Weren't you like the PDF guy?
You know what? I need to convert it into a PDF in order to send it out to people. I don't know why I need to do that. Why can't I just send the paper or the Google Doc or the spreadsheet, the Google spreadsheet, but I have to convert it to a PDF? Yeah, PDFs are cool. God, I wish I read some PDFs for this panel, but no, I'm just gonna have to use my brains and wit.
Just gonna have to wing it.
Yeah, I honestly like. There's only so much data on this topic that you can.
Yeah, it's like never been really
That's the
implemented.
problem, right?
Yeah.
But we can talk
Okay,
about
that's
it.
just not true.
Oh
We can
shit.
talk
hate all
about it
of you.
later. We can talk about it. Zwerp is, by the way, in the chat as well. Name man. So
yeah,
I know
hi,
he,
Zwerp.
I actually know his kink. He likes to have sex in public. That's his thing. What do you think about that,
Yeah, we're
man?
talking about King.
Oh wait, this verb?
Yeah, what do you think about that? Having sex in public? Do you think that?
Yeah, I've had that happen once. It's fun.
I think it's a bit weird, right? I don't want to expose people to my naked body. But yeah.
It does go into a weird place, yes. If you take into account that people don't necessarily want to deal with that for sure.
Wait, but wouldn't you be having sex in public mainly because it's in public but no one is watching, but it's the
Yeah.
added effect that somebody might be watching or somebody
Yeah.
could watch or you could get exposed? Like, it's that added pressure. It's scandalous.
Yeah, you're
NTR, you know, I was talking about it on the NTR debate.
Yeah, like any kink or fantasy, like what makes it exciting is the transgression of a social norm, right? In my
like
experience, in my experience, what happened was I took her into a park. The parks are closed at night here in Paris, but I know like how to scale the fence pretty safely. So we like went there. I thought it would be romantic and cool. Didn't like plan it or anything. And since it's a closed park, like exactly, we didn't expect anyone to be there, and like we started kissing, and things just like progressed until well, we were naked and having sex, and someone actually was walking around in the park and like passed right next to us, and we panicked and stopped. And the funny thing is, this was just our this was our first time like sleeping together, well, having sex, and our second date. So
God, what a fucking Chad.
nah.
First time in public in the park with somebody
Yeah.
watching.
But what you don't know, that name Menon is a fucking Kumar. Like he fucks around a lot. Like he's fucking all the girls in Paris. You know?
No, I'm really not. It's been a long time. I just have some like fun stories. So anyways, what happened is that we stopped and we like panicked. Me, in my mind, I was like, oh shit, she probably doesn't want someone to like see her naked. She, in her mind, because afterwards we talked about it, she in her mind was like, oh shit, he probably doesn't want to like continue having sex.
Projection.
Yeah,
this is so fun.
But when we talked about it later, because once again, it wasn't planned, but when we talked about it later, we both realized like actually it was really hot and we would have like wanted to just continue and ignore the guy like walking past us. But yeah, that's why if you're doing things that are like really kinky and stuff, it's good to communicate. Not just though, that's the most important reason for like consent and boundaries, etc., but also because you don't know, like, gotta know what's like cool to do.
Speaking of the kinks, Destiny video.
Oh shit.
He and his wife did like some collab on whatchamacallit. They were like making a tier list of kinks. Or it was like a spectrum of kinks of like safe kinks to talk about, and then the extreme dangerous kinks, like be really careful about communicating with your partner on these particular kinks.
Mm-hmm.
Do we believe in that?
Sorry,
I mean,
this is an open question.
I was mentioning it like Elysium.
Some kinks are more dangerous than others. Like
Elysium as a kink, definitely dangerous. If somebody like came up to me on a date and was like, "Oh yeah, watch this person Elysium," I'm out of there. Okay, they're paying for the date. I'm just leaving.
Fair enough. No, like the obvious example I think is well, blood play is one of the most extreme ones. Anything
you mentioned blood.
Yeah, anything like bondage, harder BDSM stuff and all that stuff requires like preparation and planning, safe words, safe signals, etc., etc. Asphyxiation is a really fucking hardcore one too. I would not feel comfortable doing that with
what is
ever.
That?
Well, because you have autoerotic asphyxiation where you're like masturbating and suffocating yourself. Asphyxiation.
Asphyxiation. What does that mean?
Asphyxiation. When you're asphyxiated. It's choking.
I can't believe I asked you for the definition of asphyxiation, then you tell me affixing.
Because the word you're telling back at me is not the same pronunciation as what I think I was saying. Okay.
Just define it, please.
Choking, like
yikes.
Yeah. But like not choking in the like holding someone's throat, but like actually blocking airflow or blood flow. Some people have that kink, and that's like one of the most dangerous ones. Like people actually die from that.
Yeah. So
sorry, Elysium.
Elysium. For the record, we already had the UBI debates.
We're moved on.
Kinks. So we.
We renamed it to Universal Based Income.
Based income. Yeah. So everybody that has like more extreme kinks gets more money. That's where we settled on. So something along these lines. But anyways, so now the shit talk is over about like kinks and stuff. Let's go into the actual meat. So this is where people that are just the memers in my chat are going to leave, I imagine. But we're going to talk about a serious topic about universal basic income. So I think we all have like a different opinion probably about this topic. We can do the whole definition game first of all, if you guys want to. But honestly, like, yeah, we should just settle on like a certain type of income. And so I don't know which type of income you guys want to settle on, like the poverty level or like, how you call it, like, minimum wage or like, or when you living wage. Which guys? What would you guys prefer? Like, because I think that's something we need to get straight before we're gonna talk about this issue, right? Or
I'm not 100%
anybody
sure
dis-
what definition we're ironing out right now.
Okay. I think we should first iron out just the general definition of universal basic income. I'll start with this. There, the three words to are universal is that
Yeah.
everybody gets it. It's basic, so that's what we're going to be kind of maybe debating later on. Is what is basic? Is it poverty level? Is
Yeah.
it the level of happiness? You know, a lot of people throughout history have sort of come to this arbitrary number, or they try to make it objective as possible. And then income, which is money. So I don't know. Do we need to define anything else? Was I missing anything?
No, that sounds but like
You can work with that. That's fine. I think Chinchilla is implying that like, even if we use that for what we call UBI, people have different methods of getting to similar or at least relative states of things. But yeah.
Yeah,
for me,
that
sorry.
could be the debate. That could be the debate. But I was also kind of getting the impression that some people were going to be arguing against it and preferring other things to UBI, such as like minimum wage is not a universal basic income.
No, I would. I mean, when I was said that, I mean like a UBI on the level of like a minimum income. So if the minimum income in your country is like 1,200 euros, you would get like a UBI of 1,200 euros.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Alright, I
basically
understand.
Chinchilla is like prompting us to discuss what basic means in those three words, right?
Yeah.
What's the basic level that you can live off of?
Because I think we all agree that when we talk about universal, first of all, right, it's everybody. We can talk about like the age people get at it, but I don't think that's an interesting topic. So let's just go for 18 for now. But the
It could get
basic part,
interesting.
yeah.
Oh well, I'm also a nerd on this.
It definitely would get interesting in the specific case of, I guess, of children in abusive households that can't rely on their parents for support, where like actually having a UBI would be a pretty big game changer, right?
Oh boy.
But then it gets complicated because
Yeah.
usually parents have
We need
control over the
direction.
children's finances. But yeah,
I feel like we're more confused in what we're going to discuss than before. Chinchilla,
for
we
sure.
need direction.
Okay. So let's
What do you want us
first-
to debate about?
Yeah. So first, let's settle what we mean by basic, and then from there on out, let's debate generally, like if we want to have like a UBI or not. So, Senpai Cha, what do you think? What's like basic? Like, is it like 200 euros, $15,000, 20 lira?
Oh boy. I'm going to be defining basic by following the number which is your country's poverty level. So in the United States, that number is around $12,000 a year. So it roughly rounds out to $1,000 a month, which is a reference to probably one of the most well-known universal basic income proposals in the United States, which was the freedom dividend proposed by Andrew Yang. The reason why I think poverty level is because it's like the number which is well known that you could argue, which is like you're giving people money into the point where they're able to live, but it's not, you're not giving them money to live a comfortable life. They have to do more to get a comfortable life. So then this is an attempt to try to get as many people to vote on it as possible, because you're going to be having the crowd who's like, where's the money going to come from? Or, oh, it's too expensive. Or, oh, you're giving too much money, etc., etc., etc.
Okay. Would anybody disagree with the poverty level? Like, Damon, would you prefer something else if you were to implement like a UBI?
I mean, I think it's rough because like feasibility, obviously it can't be too high. It also makes sense to have it not be over like minimum wage, because then you're literally, well, you're basically de facto forcing minimum wage to be higher than in practice than the actual UBI, and by a certain percentage, because if people can live off of UBI, which is kind of the goal, they not in comfort, but if they can live off of it, then why would they like lose out on 40 hours of their weekly time just to when they can like do their own stuff. But I also tend to think that it should be as high as it could be. Well, it wouldn't be competing, yeah, true. It would be on top of normal income. I guess it gets complicated because it's hard to tell how much it could affect inflation or not. I guess most plans.
Name. We can get into that later.
Yeah,
for now,
sorry.
I wanna ask you, well, what do you think that what basic means, right? So let's get into those kind of stuff like later.
Yeah,
Reel
sure.
it in.
Okay, basic means I agree with Senpai. Basic means like basic needs, not necessarily luxuries. The specifics, whether it's like the poverty line or some percentage of minimum wage or something else, that I guess that like depends on the specifics of socioeconomics and countries and whatnot. But in principle, I completely agree.
Okay, what about you, Elysium?
Oh boy. Okay, wait. Not to go off topic, but a lot of the welfare stuff comes down to like what the goal is. So as far as like UBI, I think we're probably all in agreement on like a basic level. The poverty line seems like a fine thing. I would hope that we'd want to like push that too. So like maybe you add like some modifier to the poverty line to be pushing society forward. But yeah.
Okay.
So that seems fine as our basic start.
Yeah, so because I try to settle that, because I heard like people say like UBIs of like 3K a month or something like that. So I think that's definitely not the UBI that we would talk about, right? So let's just do like in that case, let's do on this, based on this universal basic income, let's just do let's hear everybody's take. I know, Senpo Chow, you are like you're really invested in this topic, right? Yeah. So I will let you have the last word then for the opening statements if you want, or you want to have the first one. Either way.
I mean, was there even any disagreement? It didn't feel like
we're just giving general takes now. We're all agreeing on what we're talking
general
about.
Takes.
What we're going to talk about?
About UBI. Oh boy, there's so much to talk about UBI. Okay, so I guess
okay.
One thing in contention is that like I really don't like it when people want to bring up how there are like, whenever I'm going to be mentioning UBI, just generally, people are always going to mention, oh, it's going to cut social programs, where that's not necessarily true. That's just something that really grinds my gears whenever I hear it. I want to
What?
But you want to do opening statement for now? So about UBI, what your thoughts are on UBI?
What are my thoughts on UBI? Well, I really like it, and sorry, I'm all over the place. I'm just so lost in like direction. So opening statement. When it came to UBI, and like when it came to when I was younger, one of the problems that I really thought about, that I really wanted to solve, was poverty. Because I think poverty is just like the worst thing that you could suffer wherever you are, whenever. Poverty in almost every single country may not look the same, but it definitely feels the same. And so the thought was, okay, well, like, how do you eliminate poverty then? There's a problem. What is the solution? And like so many times I thought about solutions like, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, until like a couple of years ago. Well, actually, it would be 2 years ago. I think 2 years ago, when Andrew Yang decided to run for president, and he ran on this policy of universal basic income. And I started looking into it, and I was like, wow, this is game changing. The reason why it's game changing, though, is not that it's so new, or that it attempts to dish out a lot of money to everybody at the same time. I think one of the huge things about universal basic income is the change in how people are going to be viewing others, or how they view life when it comes to its implications. If anybody is familiar with some philosophy, this is very Rawlsian. And Rawls was basically this person who said everything is basically determined, and nobody really deserves what they get, because it's all arbitrary, based on decisions, where you live, where you're born, etc. And so then when it comes to life and what you get and how you experience it, its implications are, well, you really don't deserve anything that you get. And so if that is the case, then I think everybody has the right to life. And I think the best life to have is one with a lot of freedom. And I think you can't have freedom without economic freedom. And that is the problem with poverty, is that people who are impoverished don't have economic freedom to make choices that could or could not change their life. They don't even have the ability to make choices, because they just can't. They can't do anything without money. And universal basic income, I think, would alleviate a lot of that crunch on poverty.
Okay.
Which is why I support it.
Okay. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. Okay. So, gonna reiterate lightly. When it comes to welfare, a lot of the decisions come down to what goal you want. And that brings up a lot of interesting questions in how we're designing stuff, like what we're actually trying to design for. In general, I don't really favor a UBI. I really like levels of means testing to things, and our different ways of using that to target incentives more directly, and have more precise outcomes, is my general stance. I think if we had to choose between UBI or nothing, it would be very beneficial. But I feel like we can find better solutions than just a flat UBI.
Okay.
I 100% agree with Senpai's intention. I think that resolving poverty, and specifically through economic freedom, should be a goal for humanity as a whole, and some form of basic income or social welfare in general is probably the best solution to that. As far as the specifics of UBI, I know you said you were. I tend to disagree with most implementations of it. Sadly, as much as you said that it pisses you off to hear people mention about the elimination of other social security programs, there are a lot of politicians who claim to be pro UBI, whose proposals are funded by closing down all social security, all social programs, for example. I imagine you're not in support of them because of what you said, but that is the praxis that it gets in a lot of political spheres, which I have huge issues with. And then if you're not closing down social security programs, then from the praxis side too, we get into how do we fund it. I don't, to respond a bit to what Elysium said, there are also huge problems with means testing, and that's probably, in my opinion, one of the biggest arguments for the universality of UBI. It's that you get rid of all the inefficiencies of means testing, you get rid of all the people who fall through the cracks of any means-tested social program. They all get access to that help, which is a huge benefit to society. That being said, there's maybe a compromise somewhere in there where like a very light amount of means testing could allow targeting funds to the right place without committing the same mistakes that like strong amounts of mean testing does. So I think I'm more like on a compromise level.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. There's like good types of mean testing and very poor types of mean testings. And obviously I'd be thinking that my mean testing wouldn't be bad, but yes, I'd agree that your means testing are very high of like when you want the benefits to start dropping off.
Yeah, so then when you mean means testing, what are you trying to test though? Is it going to be based on whether or not you're working, or is it going to be based on like your income, so then like rich
incomes.
people won't get it?
Yeah, you're gonna be targeting like high income levels. So, like in America, you could probably set like once you're hitting like 60 or 80,000 annual income, and then you can adjust numbers for households and stuff. You'd like drop off benefits. So we're talking like once you're established in the higher middle class, we can reduce benefits, so we don't get any of these. Hopefully, we can hopefully avoid more of the cyclical problems.
To be fair, Elysium, you could just, if you were to implement like a UBI, you could make it so that's obviously this is what you want to do, because otherwise you won't implement like a UBI, that the rich will get like taxed way more than the poor people, right? So in that case, they will pay like $2,000 a month in, but they get $1,000 back, so that you still have the whole thing of the universality, right?
How would you make a tax system like that? That seems a little
Well,
confusing.
Well, you can have like different taxations. If you what Andrew Yang proposed was a value-added tax, which basically means that whoever consumes more pays more into tax. So obviously, like rich people consume more, so therefore.
But that doesn't. Okay, so you're proposing that if we have wealthy people getting $1,000 in UBI, that we're going to recoup that somewhere. But like none of
you will get it out of taxation, right? So you will basically
but not relative to that $1,000 you just sent them. But sure, I mean, I understand what you're saying. It might not matter.
So then, for an example of what Chinchilla is talking about, for Andrew Yang's universal basic income policy, the free no dividend, how he was going to fund it was through a value-added tax. And there was this one study when taking into account the universal basic income, the value-added tax, and everything else that was going to be funding it, this person found that the top 10 percentile of people in the United States, their income, the top 10% of people with the highest income, they're at the end of the day are going to lose out on money, meaning that they're going to be paying more than they're going to be getting.
Sure, so but you're just adding a new tax. Why not just raise income taxes and do the same thing, or raise corporate tax and do the same thing?
So then, okay, so here's the thing about the value-added tax is that it also has other added benefits. The value-added tax is not a means to an end. It is also a good policy in of itself that I would argue for. But
sure,
okay, so like if it's not going to be a value-added tax and you just want to raise income taxes to the point in which they're going to be losing money than they're going to be getting, it's the same thing, right? In your mind.
Yeah, but you're just saying I'm going to raise income taxes to pay for this now. You're not recouping the universal income you're sending to them, you're just raising taxes.
Yes.
Yeah, but so then like okay, so they're going to be receiving the 12,000 or the 1,000 a month, but they're going to be paying more as a result of this policy being implemented. You get what I'm saying? So like it's
No.
not that
I disagree, because they're not paying
Okay.
more because you made a UBI policy. They're paying more because you raised taxes. These are two
well, we
separate
raise
things.
taxes because of the UBI policy.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
do you
so-
understand how these are
If
two
the
separate
UBI
things?
policy wasn't there, the taxes wouldn't have been raised unless you're
Well, no, because
arguing-
taxes are independent. So now in the future, if the
Yes.
tax rate goes up and down, or anything that happens with taxes is independent of our welfare plan. These are two separate like systems.
Okay,
And that
Yeah,
that's
I think we can move on after. I don't think that's a real point.
I think Elysium, like what you're saying, that you could argue for like a machine goes brrr, basically, but you can also just argue for like having like a like taxation on the other end to cover the
No, here,
the
can I
UBI.
clarify?
And I think that there are what you are saying is correct. That these are
You
two
can
different
change.
things, right? But
They are
it's
two different
like-
things. So you can change
Yeah.
taxes to pay for something and stuff, but these are independent things. Whereas if something is means tested within and of itself, it is adjusting for like what you're targeting. So you can make a certain tax system at some time to target what you want, but your taxes are going to change with time inevitably. And so like now you're coupling two systems that in actuality are not actually coupled. And so your longevity is going to be very different than if you in system have means testing.
Yeah, but
well,
Elysium,
but the
be
means testing
fair,
is
be-
distribution. It's not funding of the program.
Yeah, that's how I think of means testing. Is
Yeah.
more like, okay, if we're going to be means testing, for an example of a case, is when you have welfare such as unemployment. Well, you have to prove that you're actually unemployed.
Yeah.
That's means tested to make sure that when you're giving out unemployment benefits, you're giving out to people who are actually unemployed.
And which is why I said in general, I don't think I favor a UBI because I wouldn't want it to be universal. If we're going to make a basic income, I would prefer it to be means tested.
Okay, so then that has really nothing to do with funding. That has means testing
Well,
has something to do with
we didn't bring
distribution.
this
I thought
up.
we were talking about funding when we're going to
I-
be talking about
okay.
taxes.
Well, because you guys brought up like how to pay for it stuff when we were just talking about would you give the recouping the system of if I give a millionaire $1,000, am I going to recoup it in this system? Your answer is no. You're going to raise taxes. My answer is yes. I'm not going to give that millionaire $1,000. That's where this came from. And then funding as a whole.
Is it
that's
possible
tied
that
into.
we could like go past what actually is recouping and like you could see how the money is going to be sort of returned, or there is going to be some sort of funding that makes it so that even like
there are ways to fund these things.
even if I implemented a universal basic income, which I know you don't like, that we can both agree that through most common universal basic income policies, that it's going to leave people who are rich off with less money than before, even when they do get the UBI. That's the point that I'm at least trying to make. And I really couldn't care less about what actually is recouping. To me, I think both of these are...
That's a fine point to make. It's just unrelated to what we were talking about before. I don't know the statement that if we implement a UBI, it will leave rich people making less money than before is necessarily true.
Yeah, I get what you mean, but that's if you're gonna argue for a UBI, I didn't find like one supporter of UBI that says like I'm gonna implement a UBI so the richer can become richer. Like I think that's a really weird statement, right? So,
That's
I don't really like the argument of like tax laws changing because like of course that can happen. Like you implement programs, you plan for them to be funded by this or that tax policy. Okay, so go ahead.
We've gotten way bigger. The whole statement that started this was if we give a millionaire $1,000, he's going to end up paying like more than that back in the system. And that isn't necessarily true. That was like the core of the disagreement. Going into how we're going to fund something and other stuff is fine. Okay, never keep going.
I agree. It's not necessarily true because it all depends on what are the other factors at play, which is, I believe, one of them to be taxation.
Sure.
Yeah. So for me, my my general take on the UBI is that I don't necessarily favor UBI. I think that that when you talk about like the US, I generally think that they might first want to try up to build their welfare state, want to rebuild their infrastructure. The energy transition costs a lot of money. Those are things that I think are very important to address first before we're gonna talk about like a UBI. I think like what like Elysium was saying earlier, like addressing issues and allocating money to those issues, aka means testing, right? When you're talking about. So I think that's for now it's a better option. Maybe in the future, maybe in 40 or 50 years, then I might wanna consider like UBI, but right now I think that's just not feasible.
Okay, so then the problem that I have with that kind of statement is that it is kind of going into the territory of counterfactual arguments, which is, oh, this other direction is going to be a lot better when it comes to its outcomes. Except none of us could actually know whether or not other options are actually going to produce better or worse outcomes.
Well, I would say that when you look back in the past, that most countries did have like the choice to pick like a UBI style of like a system, but they all chose for like a welfare state instead, and they did consider that. So I honestly don't get why would have all those states pick like a welfare state over like a UBI.
Okay, so then at that point, that is that's post that's post hoc. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Or like you're not telling me the reasons. All you're telling me is that there are reasons. So what are the actual reasons? You can't tell me.
I think that people were actually it's because it's like a really new thing, right? So I think that people are generally like also scared for like having like either capital flight or like that people go live somewhere else. All these things that how to regulate like a UBI very well. So it sounds easy, right? Like universal basic income. But what if I take my $1,000 a month and I just go to Thailand and say like, well, I now I get my $1,000 a month and I'm in Thailand, and that's suddenly worth way more, right? So I think in the past it was generally not feasible because we couldn't like track and trace people that much. I also think that it was like probably like more harder to trace if people were still living or something, stuff like that. So maybe in today's day of age, it's like easier, but I still think, yeah, I think generally speaking, I think that people pick like a welfare state also because of the means testing, and that UBI is just fairly expensive to start off with as like a nation. Even if you like with taxation, you can solve that problem. I'm not saying there's going to be like a rapid inflation, all that stuff. I'm not saying that, but yeah.
I think I have actually it's a weak counter argument, but it's kind of an argument in favor for UBI compared to what you were talking about. Like, could this money, say we implement that value added tax, could this money be better serve society in some other application? I think there's a huge kind of intangible value to UBI. Probably one of the strongest arguments in favor of it, in my opinion, is that it then this economic liberty that Senpai Chao was talking about, it then allows people to add value to society in ways that aren't immediately profitable in like a pure GDP economic sense. But when someone can take time off to take care of their family, give like a loving family to their children, those children will grow up to be more productive people. They'll grow up more better educated, better citizens, and they will create beautiful and amazing things for society. Those kinds of long-term concerns are really hard to quantify, but I think they're just as valuable as other concerns that are much easier to like budget into a government budget.
Yeah, but you could also like basically just give like 2,000 euros a month for raising a child or something, or $1,000, even if you want to go that route, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but then we go back
Allocate
to
it like that.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. But then we go back to like the difficulties of means testing and like people falling through the cracks, which is something I feel very concerned about.
How is that difficult, or can you explain that?
Well, it's mostly the falling through the cracks thing. So, for example, whenever you have to deal with bureaucracy, say you're going to have like a bunch of paperwork. You're going to have valid IDs, all sorts of things that anyone in any kind of like comfortable lifestyle, well integrated into society takes for granted, but that can actually become huge hurdles for someone who's in any kind of more or less legal immigration status. Maybe there are various things that can cause it to be, that can just cause people to not end up getting access to the.
In your world, how does an illegal immigrant get a UBI?
Well, that's actually a fair point. Yeah, there's no way the UBI is going to be completely absolved of paperwork. That's actually impossible. So that's a fair point. Yeah, there will be people who want to have access to it.
I once it like
okay, well, like your argument would then be is that there would be less kind of paperwork between a UBI and all the combined policies that are going to be means tested, and so that's still an argument.
Yeah,
you can say it's more efficient. The problem with that is now we're going to get into well, if you still have all these other policies going on too, our efficiency benefit is greatly reduced, right?
Not necessarily.
No, I don't think so. We just have to increase the capacity for the government to actually implement these policies.
Well, okay, so if we're increasing the government's bureaucracy, then we're not being more efficient, right?
Well, no. There's a difference between increasing the capacity of bureaucracy and actually adding more bureaucracy. So then whenever, for example, when the United States decides to add the Navy, or the Air Force, no, it's the Air Force. When the United States decides to add the Air Force to its military, did this military become less efficient or more efficient, or did it stay the same?
I don't know.
Elysium.
Sorry, I don't know.
Okay, so then what would be the difference of then adding a new department in order to implement UBI?
I don't understand this question. You would need different people that are working on UBI than that are working on whatever system you have going on right now, right?
Yeah, and that's fine, right? That's increasing. That's what I mean by increasing the capacity. So I think, if the government, if the size of the government and the number of people, hold on, I'm speaking. Okay, if the size of the government and the number of people who are working in the government stayed the same whenever this policy was implemented, then there probably would be less efficient. The reason why it'll be less efficient is because you'll have the same amount of people doing more stuff. Okay, that's a pretty basic understanding of how it could be inefficient, but it doesn't necessarily have to be inefficient whenever you're adding in new stuff. This is also kind of like a lame argument in my opinion, because you could use this for anything, for like any progressive policy of implementing this policy by the government, boom, it's going to make it inefficient. Okay, this is kind of like a libertarian, I like small government. That wasn't my argument
at all. So you said, I think Namernam said this though. I don't know. One of you two just said that by doing UBI, you're reducing the bureaucracy that someone has to go through, and you're making the system more efficient. But this is only true if UBI is replacing these other systems. right?
No, not
And as you
necessarily.
started
No, no, no.
out saying,
The
Senpai Chow,
argument you're misunderstanding. Okay. What I backed up Naaman is that when you're going to be like if you're going to be comparing, okay, a universal basic income policy and a bunch of separate policies that accomplishes basically what universal basic income does, but it's all means tested specifically, then when you break down the bureaucracy that's needed for each of those, that UBI is going to have less bureaucracy than all of those combined stuff.
okay, I totally agree.
Yes.
But when you
okay,
started,
so-
you said you don't want to get rid of other policies. That was a huge pet peeve of yours.
And that's not an
I
issue.
didn't say that.
Either.
No. The
can
pet
still
peeve
have
of mine. Hold on. The pet peeve of mine was that people would complain about that. My actual position on universal basic income is that it depends which social programs that I would like to cut. So I think, for example, food stamps, it would be really redundant to give a person food stamps on top of universal basic income. Why?
Okay.
Because the whole point of universal basic income is to supplement basic needs, and food is considered a basic need, or would be considered a basic
What do you
need
do?
when it comes to the. Okay, so what do I do for?
Yeah, okay, we've got our UBI system and someone's going hungry. What do you do?
They get $1,000 a month. What's going on?
Yeah.
How are
What if they
spending
spend it on something else?
Okay, that's their choice.
So you just let them starve.
Well, how would giving them? I guess so. Yeah. They had
So-
that
What do
economic
you
freedom.
mean?
I guess they had that economic freedom.
Elysium.
Freedom to
and-
die is
No,
not
I-
useful.
Elysium.
Okay,
If you,
so like,
if,
all
I
right,
just
so
wanna- no. I
put myself
wanna.
in a pickle. No, I really did keep myself in a pickle. But then what happens when somebody has food stamps, but
And throw
their
them in
car
the
broke
fire.
down, and
the
they
last
don't
one.
have any money to fix it? Do you also give them money for car stuff?
I mean,
So then we're just
Typically,
throwing
they
them
get-
money. Oh,
well, it depends what you mean by throwing money, but yeah, if someone like that's why we have like designated food stamp money that typically isn't used on anything besides food stamp. There's like a black market stuff for it. This is pretty minor. But yeah, if someone's car breaks down, then that's fucked. They've got to use something else to get to their grocery store to use their food stamps, I guess.
So then now I'm going to be using your argument for that. You're just going to let that person not
have a
use
car,
money in
yeah.
order not have a car. Yeah. Okay. So then you see that's the pickle.
No,
is
these are
that
not analogous.
the
Dying
issue-
because you can't eat is not the same thing as not having a car.
The issue. Okay. The issue is that none of us can actually control how people spend the money unless you do it through means testing, which okay,
well, no, this
is a
is
good
exactly
point.
why we have so many
Okay.
programs. Why we have like a public transportation program and stuff like that. So like people in all these different situations with different needs can hopefully survive. And
I
so,
would
like, kind
rather-
of do our best.
I would rather just give people $1,000 a month on top of anything else that isn't redundant in order for them to make ends meet. Now,
But
if they
do you
decide
see how
to
you're
spend it,
gonna
if
end in the
they
same place?
if they decide to spend it on other things, not food, then guess what? They wait the next month, they have another $1,000 a month. I also don't think people are as stupid in this example. And there have been countless of, I don't even have to mention universal basic income initiatives. What I can mention is when it comes to the checks that the United States government decided to give to certain types of people throughout the year in 2020. And that a good chunk of that money went to food. And also a good chunk of that money went to clothing or car repairs or bills, etc., etc. So like the thing here, I recognize that the downside to universal basic income is that we don't have control of how people spend it. But I think the freedom to spend outweighs that control.
Okay, so
Name.
do you?
I
sorry,
want
Name
to
was
hear a
something.
little bit of name as well because it's like
Go for it. Go for it.
I just wanted to butt in a couple times. I don't think that there is necessarily an issue with UBI coexisting with social programs. Just like kind of what Senpai Chow was saying, which I agree with, you need to see what you're trying to accomplish. So like maybe I agree or disagree with food stamps, because like I think Elysium brought up a good point that like people, I'm mostly thinking of like people who have the kind of people who make wrong decisions with their spending are usually people who have addictions, right? So they're people with addictions will probably benefit from actual food stamps rather than a UBI in order to function, to like survive in society. So like maybe we leave that, maybe we take it away. There's like arguments to be had about that specific program or other programs, but just to go back to the initial point of disagreement, the complexity issue, I think it's like that's why it's important to talk about what you're trying to accomplish, and that UBI accomplishes something different. So it's not like that was what Senpai was doing with the like Air Force analogy. Like it's a different program that is trying to do something different. It's got its own complexities added to the whole system, so the whole system gets bigger and more complex, but it's not competing with the other parts of the system necessarily, right?
Okay, yeah, I totally agree with that. That's fine.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Chow, you wanted to say something because you raised your hand.
Shit, motherfucker.
So
means I
I think Elysium, I think your analogy or what you were saying is like kind of like if that person spends it's $1,000 or something else, right? You could also argue like I could throw my food stamps into my furnace to heat myself and be like a stupid fuck, right? So I think. Honestly, like I'm not quite sure if I follow you there, right? If you catch
so
my
here,
drift.
sure.
So,
Let me try to break it down more. So we have a lot of social programs that have come out of trying to meet specific needs, and I think they are not made arbitrarily for the vast majority of these programs. And so if we make a UBI system and we still have some of these problems, I don't see how we're not just going to have these exact same social programs over time. And now we probably have definitely benefited. Like if we have two societies, one that has all these social programs and a UBI, and one that just has all these social programs, like the number of people that are utilizing these social programs has probably decreased, and the number of people that are out of poverty has probably decreased. But like the people that are on welfare and the social program, or welfare and the UBI, are like in the exact same spot. And so like we still have a core group of people in poverty that we haven't like changed anything for. If that makes any sense.
yeah.
Okay, so okay, this is what I wanted to say. Here's another pet peeve about not generally this could be applied to other things, but universal basic income, as what Naaman said, is a huge policy because it's universal, meaning that it tries to target everybody. So like oftentimes a lot of people, it feels like, treat universal basic income as something that like should be like a huge thing. It should affect everybody positively. I'm not going to be the one who says that nobody is going to be falling through the cracks of universal basic income. I also don't think universal basic income is a perfect policy. However, I think universal basic income for the vast majority of people, and I mean like a lot of people, are going to be more beneficial than not. And a good example of somebody like kind of treating universal basic income or giving a critique of it, which isn't really directly against the whole universal basic income, is the example of the alcoholic. I would rather have the alcoholic be more targeted by another policy than universal basic income, such as increased or universal health insurance, or getting this person healthcare, or getting this person to a hospital, etc., or getting this person to rehab. I don't think trying to like ship or make custom plans for every single issue for every single person is going to be as helpful as actually directly solving the underlying problem in that example, which is alcoholism.
I think one of these like misunderstandings we have about like the universal basic income is that people that misuse their money, generally speaking, uh, get like somebody dedicated to manage their money, right? So
Mm-mm.
and
Mm-mm.
maybe not within the US, but within in the Netherlands, they would. So in that case, they the manage their money could be managed for them if they are having troubles with like alcohol or with drugs,
Okay.
and that way
So
you can
this,
still spend the money for them, which
yeah, this is a
can be a
huge element
solution.
of any like system is like you get to a point where people that don't manage their money well need help, and creating the system to help them is like incredibly hard because you're giving someone control over another person's life, and the potential for abuse there is like insanely high.
Yeah, so we have like people that are actually like lawyers that basically do that kind of stuff, basically on the level of a lawyer that is like does like it's not a lawyer, it's like a level underneath that, it's a legally, but still
Mhm.
again, it's like somebody that's making sure that the money is allocated to the right areas. But
Is there
I
ever
think
what do you do to prevent abuse in that system?
sorry.
What does the
Sorry.
Netherlands do to prevent abuse in that system? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, well, it's like it's a government
Legal
job.
action.
So if you
You fuck up or you get sued.
if you get no, you get jail. You get jail time. So that's you can like how do you call somebody that does um uh like does like deeds and stuff.
A notary?
Yeah, notary. Thank you. Well, that's you should. That's if you as a notary, if you commit like a crime, well, that's pretty heavy, right? In your country,
Mhm.
I would assume so. So you can see that pretty much on the same level if you were to do that with
Yeah.
with a person.
Do you
But yeah,
guys ever
there's
have like
always room for abuse, but then you get jail time. You know? Yeah.
has this ever been a problem in Netherlands? Like,
No, no, not that. There must be problems with it sometimes, right? There must
uh-huh.
have been occurred of like the 20,000 people that are under that supervision or something like that. But
Mhm.
it's like if you go bankrupt, do you guys have like a system that they track those people and keep an eye on those people?
Ooh,
Do you have
no.
like a no? Oh, well, we have that as well. So it's basically if you go bankrupt, you cannot pay off your debts, you get
Mhm.
2 years time to pay off as much as that as possible, and after that you get a clean slate. So, but in the meantime, a person will be assigned to you to make sure that you don't make stupid investments and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
How much control over your funds do they have?
in that case, much because you fucked up when you go bankrupt, right?
Okay.
So yeah, but yeah, we're going off topic, but
Yeah.
Well, no, because I think that'd be an integral part of any. That's one of the things that I bring up. I think there are like two stages. I think a lot of people would benefit from just like basic counseling or therapy access, which would be part of like any I don't know, welfare program, or yeah, I don't know if it'd be part of a UBI in your guys' world, because it seems like it's just the income level. But
Like what we talked about last time, which was health insurance or access to
mhm.
healthcare. Okay, so I think that would be separate from universal basic income. However, I think those two things can coexist, like every other progressive policy that I believe in. And I think that the society who is going to implement universal basic income on a scale that is actually universal is probably going to be also a society that would implement universal health insurance or universal access to healthcare.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
I like mentioned in response to the tutelage. That's how we call it in France when like a judge has financial control over someone's finances because they're deemed like incapable of making their financial decisions. So they have that in France too. Honestly, from what I know of the political landscape in the U.S., I don't think that's possible in the U.S.
We have
right.
what you're describing, I believe, but that's like different circumstances. It's not like for going bankrupt or because you're poor and stuff.
Do you know the circumstances in which it would happen?
No, I'm trying to remember. I think this is mostly in like children.
Oh, well, yeah,
like
that makes sense. Yeah.
Brought away from their parents. Yeah.
So we actually we act like somebody is just a child in that case. If somebody goes bankrupt, that's basically what their legal standing goes to.
Oh boy, that's rough.
Yeah, that is rough. I don't think like the way it's in France is it happens when people are deemed like they have some sort of mental deficiency or mental health issue.
That too, yeah.
Things that directly affect their decision making in a very like concrete way. Just declaring bankruptcy is considered like you fucked up, you made a mistake, but you don't lose your like financial freedom for that here. I don't think so.
By the way, for the record, if you have like a bankruptcy, usually you don't actually get that, but it's only like extreme cases. So if you manage to fuck up royally with like loads of debt, then you get that stuff. So, but yeah. Elysium? Or the name? Sorry.
I just wanted, like, going back to the topic, I really do like the idea of having like both of you guys are saying, like having specific programs to target the possible like weak points of people, how people spend their money. So yeah, like having well, health insurance is one thing, but also for like having proper funding for addiction support. Possibly something we haven't discussed that could work really well with the UBI is like free access to financial counseling, maybe. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah. No, sorry, that's part of like the counseling therapy that in some cases I think should be mandatory for people. So like especially if we've implemented the UBI or any of these income or welfare policies and you like don't use it well, I think you should have to go to just like basic finance classes.
So why wouldn't you just then like last week name and use it like nationalized healthcare? That's your precision or your position. So why wouldn't you like have like national healthcare? Because then people don't need to struggle with like making sure they set money aside for insurance, even if it's like backed by the government that with subsidies or something. So you can just have like certain things that address people's like again the people's need instead of like giving people's like a universal basic income. That way you don't have to educate people that much on like finance stuff as well.
Because then you lose out on the intangible, like the less tangible benefits of UBI, right? You like earlier you mentioned when I took the example of someone taking time off to take care of their family, for example, you mentioned, okay, you can target that, but then what if that person wants to take time off to create their own business? Okay, you can also target that, but what if that person wants to do this other thing, like go back into education? Okay, you can target that, and like you already have like 3 different programs that could just be covered by UBI and give that person the freedom to pursue their like passions, their interests, their entrepreneurship, their family, whatever's most important to them in life. Whatever they choose will probably be a net benefit for society, right?
Whoa, that's a hard. So my follow up with that was like, what sort of things do you think people could choose that like wouldn't be good?
Well, the things that wouldn't be good, we touched on some of them. It would be addictions, for example, self-destructive behaviors.
Okay.
But we can mitigate those with those we can mitigate with targeted programs, right?
What about just like chilling for a year? Do you think that's a net benefit?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I honestly, I'll go out a bit out of the like liberal spectrum there. I don't think it's not like universally true, but there is truth when Marx says that a human being cannot not be productive. Like a human being will be doing something. The exceptions obviously are like if you're fucking depressed, but that's like a health condition. You know what I mean? It's not a healthy human being will be doing something with their time. Sorry.
Yeah, like playing World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah. Is that
sure.
like
Productive.
is that a healthy in your system? If I just like a new MMO comes out, I'm like fuck yeah. And if I've
Hell
got
yeah.
enough money to live for a year and it's not gonna like drastically destroy my life, like new WoW expansion.
That's that one's kind of border like in a gray area, because most people who will make that choice are where like we go back to addictions. Most people who will make that choice are probably like actually addicted to video games.
And the minority of people. So basically, what Ilsium is bringing up in this hypothetical is the fear that when people get universal basic income, that they are going to not work, they're going to quit their jobs, and they're just going to live the rest of their lives using this universal basic income. And a bunch of trials have shown that people do not. There is not a decrease in employment. And usually when there is, it's because people quit in order to pursue education or to start their own business or to take time off, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, I think this whole narrative that if you give people money and they start to become lazy, that's like a really stupid
It's unfounded.
One. It's unfounded because at that point, I remember like in late like 1800s, there was like this paper on like a subsidy that was going to be implemented within the Netherlands, and people were in the cabinet were basically saying, or not in the cabinet, but in the chamber, who were opposed to it, saying this will make people lazy, people stop doing stuff. And I think that's really unfounded, but I don't know, Elysium, if you think different about that.
In general, I agree. I wanted to see what
he wanted to know if we were smart enough to know.
Well, I want to know what examples of like negative things people could do in Emnem's world. I don't know that he really.
Yeah, so would we want to like boost the birth rate with like the UBI? Is it like a thing that we want to do? Like,
oh hell yeah!
So
there's also been cases of people who they quit their jobs in order to raise a family because they started to get a universal basic income, or they started to get a basic income. And if you want to boost birth rates even more, then here comes this idea that was mentioned earlier on, which is, well, what do we do with children? Do we give them $1,000 a month? Well, typically no, because children are children, blah, 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 blah. Irresponsible, they don't know, we're going through all of that. What we would do is we would give that money to their parents. And so it'll kind of be like it's the same logic to a child tax credit. That's what it's called. Yeah. The thingamabob that cut child poverty in half in the United States. Yeah, they got cut in half. You guys believe it?
Yeah. Elysium? Or name?
Yeah, no, child tax credit seems amazing.
Yeah, honestly, like I necessarily don't want to boost like the birth rate. You have like people around the whole world that could basically work within Europe or in Northern America, and so to put money in people's pocket for like the birth rate, I'm not quite sure if I'm like.
Chinchilla, that's like so confusing because like all throughout the developed world, and the Netherlands is in the developed world, there are issues of people not having enough children.
Yes. So there are people
what do you
outside
want people to like? Japan has this huge problem with their labor shortages because they're not having enough babies. So what they have to do is they have to do what the United States does and import labor from other countries.
And what's
that's imperialism.
No.
What?
What? Jesus.
Obvious
okay.
joke. Okay, fine, all right.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
I just
Step
renamed
out
it
of my liberal boundaries and be a leftist. Come on.
Socialist praxis. But,
Wow. Okay, Neiman does it, but I can't do it. Okay,
no, he
all
can
right.
do it. He can
Obviously,
get away
there's
with it.
something going on here. I wonder. Does that have to do with the color of my skin? Oh wow, fucking racist.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This was cultural Marxist chow. Thank you very much. No, but I think importing labor is totally fine. Honestly, I don't see any problem with that. So I think
Oh, sorry.
definitely if you look at like countries where they live, they can build like a better life over here, right? That's so if you're gonna boost like the birth rate over here, you don't need those people. And let's be honest, like overall humans are like a detriment to the planet. So I don't
What's the
think we should
detriment to the planet?
humans
Children?
mankind. Yeah, children definitely.
Mankind.
Yes, because
But so I don't wanna.
consumption, okay, yes, all consumption is unethical.
I had a
Okay,
feeling
alright.
we're
No,
getting
no.
that with the
Everybody
population
is coming
memes.
out with their moments. All right, Elysium, it's up to you now. You're next.
I am incredibly in favor of increasing the population across the entire world, planet.
Why?
You can do more. What do you mean? You have more people to work in different specializations, to advance different fields, to progress.
Do you think it's
More is better.
sustainable right now to even have like more people on the earth?
Define what you mean by sustainable. Yes, in general, I would say absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we would disagree on that. Like, I think if people get like the same level of like income, like, and if you want to do the same stuff, like that's not possible.
Okay,
So
well,
when we
okay,
talk
well,
about like
here's
meat
this other
consumption
thing.
or
Okay, like somebody doesn't like universal basic income because it doesn't solve the problem of another issue, which is that of climate change. Okay, all right, nice.
yeah,
Well,
Can I-
no, okay.
yeah,
This
that's
does
also
bring
good.
up an actual criticism, though.
Oh,
Not
boy.
really to climate change. There is a problem of currently. Now, okay, in an ideal world, I don't agree with chinchilla at all. I think everyone could have that standard of living. But currently, in present world, you do get vast disparities between countries. And a country that has a successful welfare system is vastly better than a country that doesn't. And not all countries currently can economically support such a thing.
So
like,
basically, you're
making-
saying that universal basic income would not be viable for most countries, therefore it wouldn't be as good of a
Well,
policy. Okay,
No,
yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
something you need to be aware of if you're doing this for your country is it is not viable for all countries right now, and you are setting your country at a like distinctly different level than other countries, which is going to have repercussions.
Yeah, okay, fair
This
point.
matters much more for European countries that don't have oceans surrounding them to prevent poor people from getting in. But
So
Uh,
if you were to do like a universal basic income, it wouldn't be like necessarily possible within like the countries within the EU because you have like no federal taxation. Or federal. I mean like the EU. The EU doesn't have like taxation. So then you need to implement that within a country. If you're going to implement that within a country, you're allowed to travel amongst all the countries without like the taxation changing on you. So imagine that you were living in the Netherlands, you get like 1,300 euros, and then you're gonna live in Bulgaria, and now you're a rich motherfucker in Bulgaria, right? Because you can use that money way better there. And I don't think that's what we want to do, right?
Something Oh, sorry. You want to respond?
No, go. Yep.
I just wanted to quickly say, honestly, that's something I don't actually dislike. I rather like about the idea of UBI. It's that it suddenly creates this huge incentive to actually address worldwide inequalities in like.
Wait, how?
Because
doesn't.
Well, it does. Well, no, it doesn't address them.
You're just better off.
But yeah, you're better off, but we live like on a planet together with people who aren't better off, and there will, like that's what you said, there will be problems caused by whether it's mass immigration or inequalities in cost of living, leading to like cash outflows, things like that. Those are things that, yeah, like you have an incentive to want to not have those issues. If other countries are well off enough, those things would not happen. I guess.
Oh my
Well,
god.
I
have an
understand
anecdote. I have
that it
an
can-
anecdote. I'm gonna back up Naaman.
Go for it.
Nice. Okay. So in one of my classes, the human rights class, human rights in a global perspective class, my professor asked the class, do you think political rights are more important than civil rights or the other way around? And most people said political rights. And their argument was, okay, well, you can't really do anything or you can't really accomplish much if you don't have a voice in politics, if you don't have some influence over the government, things like that, in order to get shit done. And that summer, I went to Uganda for study abroad, and I was taught the opposite by the NGO that I was working at, because I was focusing on development. They said that people who don't have food, who don't have money, who don't have shelter, who don't have any of these basic things, they can't think beyond any of that. They can't even think about politics, because what they're thinking about at that moment is survival. And so, related to universal basic income, I think, is the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And that if you were to Google the Maslow hierarchy of needs, there's the bottom tier and the upper tier. And once you accomplish, or once you're above one of those tiers, you don't really think about those stuff. Like for me, I don't think about where I'm going to get my next meal. I'm not going to think about if I'm going to be wearing good clothes tomorrow, because I have that stuff. Okay, pretentious, suburban, college educated, Northeast liberal, lamau.
Yeah.
But what I am able to do because of that is not worry about it, but also expand on my worldview. I could now have time and assurance to like look for a job, or to perform some hobbies, or to look up stuff, be informed by the news. Like nobody is going to really care as much about, say, like politics if they're in the middle of the street. And then there comes the other side of things, is that when people are suffering from income insecurity, like a lot of Trump supporters, then they're going to find they could, and what they did is they found an answer, which really wasn't much of an answer, but what it turned out to be turning into a cult, and it's very powerful. They found an answer in Trump. The person who says, I'm going to bring back the jobs. I'm going to make your lives better. I'm going to make America the America that was when you guys were living in and winning, blah, 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 blah. And like, that's what really happens with income insecurity, is that you become, you tend to become more extreme, and you also just tend to not care about a lot of the things that we want people to care about.
Elysium, do you want to respond, or?
I mean, I don't disagree with anything Charlie said there. It's kind of like a different thing than what Naaman was talking about, I feel like.
I don't know. I thought we're on the same page. Are we not, Naaman?
I think the connection there is that if people, like you're saying, Senpai, if people are more comfortable in their lives, they're going to basically be more progressive minded. They're not going to be thinking we need to fix our problems here because you have less problems to deal with, and then they're going to be able to turn themselves to the problems abroad. Is that the connection, Senpai?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, they
Wait,
just
you agree?
they actually have the ability, or they actually have the freedom to not think about their own problems, but when they're exposed to other people's problems, they could actually be like, they have the abilities to sympathize. Like even like I'm pretty sure, like if I was impoverished, I would still, I will hopefully believe that I still have the personality to be empathetic with issues around the world. But if I was impoverished and I were to look at like, I found like some TV station of, okay, there's some genocide going on, I'd be like, fuck, man, I don't even know where I'm going to be eating tomorrow. So do I care as much?
So we recognize that like we've got disparities between countries, I don't think it's necessarily true that it incentivizes a like mutually beneficial solution to these problems.
I don't
So,
think
like-
I don't think it incentivizes anything. I think it just gives
Yeah,
freedom
but Name
to
Manon
these
said it
people.
does.
Yeah, I think it does because that's like because that's how
So
you're.
if I can go to Greece and live like better than any natural Greek,
Yeah.
because whatever currency and I'm getting money and like my life's just better. At what point am I incentivized to help Greece?
Well, in that specific example, you personally, and technically you're helping Greece by injecting money into their economy and transplanting it over there. Like long term, those kinds of behaviors probably do actually address inequalities across the world in like a very slow trickle down type effect. But yeah,
Do
you.
they? Doesn't it just
I
make
don't know.
like
Honestly, I don't know.
a-
I'm hypothesizing here.
Isn't
But
this kind of more like a tourist economy then?
yeah, sure. But
Most people
then
don't
still-
view those as like very stable.
Yeah, those can have problems for sure. It's just that like those are little like cash flows. Though you like basic economy, you're gonna get wealth starting to accumulate in those countries that wasn't there otherwise, right? I'm saying from that perspective. Now is it going to be well like accumulated where it should be, etc. Those completely other issues. But yeah, you probably aren't concerned that much. In fact, you're probably disincentivized in wanting the country to become richer because then you lose your lifestyle. So in that case, no. I wasn't thinking of Senpai's argument of like people being more comfortable, being more compassionate, but I agree with it. I was more just thinking from like a political perspective, like basically imagine if Europe with the refugee crisis, if Europe didn't have the possibility to close its borders, then or chooses to, I guess a lot of countries in Europe chose to just take in refugees, like. Wouldn't you want to solve the cause of the problem at some point rather than constantly just solving the symptoms of the problems that occur?
Well, depends on the cause of the problem. Yeah. So like if you can, if it's a crisis from a civil war and stuff, yeah, you probably want to solve that. But if it's a crisis from your economy being dominant to their economy, you probably just want a stronger border. How are you gonna make? Because at this point now, your solution is like running another country.
Not necessarily running another country, but you can create like economic ties, incentives for investment, help another country build up their infrastructure and their society. The kind of things that like the IMF or the China Belt and Road Initiative that they profess to be doing, to be like investing in countries in order to build up their societies.
Ciao.
Well, he's not wrong. He did say profess, so
Yes,
Yeah.
I said profess. I don't want to like completely sidetrack the discussion into that.
yeah.
It's just,
I saw Chow smiling.
Just to be a stand of the CCP or the CPC, however you want to call it, one of their moral arguments for the One Belt, One Road initiative is legitimately that, like, oh, we've done it at home and we want to share our knowledge, our expertise, and our fortunes with the rest of the world. We want to be that benevolent, developed country, unlike the United States, who was fucking imperialist.
yeah.
Yeah, so don't you think it's like harder to help people abroad if you're gonna increase your tax rate to give it back to your own people? Like
Well, we
I
could
get
walk
like
and
the
chew
whole
gum at the same time. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's a common argument from conservatives. Like we have so many problems at home. Oh, I'm a nationalist. Let's not do anything abroad. Blah blah blah.
No, but inherently, if you were to implement like a UBI or even like a really big welfare state, it definitely gonna cost you money, right? So
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily like I don't want to go full conservative, but there is some merit in that. There's some
Okay, so then
truth.
like it's the counterfactual argument of we could be doing other things better with this money. Again,
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
nobody could prove that. Let's be real.
Elysium?
No, I mean, that's nothing. It doesn't matter. No one can. We can't prove like have. It doesn't matter. Okay. I think. I was thinking about what I was asking Namerman about, and it's something I haven't like thought too much about. But in general, I think I agree. Like, I don't know that we have like a good solution for that, but it's still worth doing. Internally, like welfare stuff. I think just one of my concerns with it is like a country engaging in these policies needs to be aware of how that's going to affect its relationship with other countries, and there might be like an extra cost in like the immigration draw and control, like, or your relationship with your neighbors, that's tacked on to policies like this that needs to be accounted for, and if like you didn't account for it, could cause unexpected expense or like unexpected cost. But in general, I think, and I mean, like we all agree in general having a, well, actually, Chinchilla is the only one that's like been less on the idea of a program. I just take issue with the universal part.
So I'm not quite sure. Program? What kind of program?
Of like a UBI program. The biggest difference so far, outside of you, Chinchilla, is just I wouldn't have it be universal.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, for me it's just not now. So in the future I can probably see it happen. But no, I lost my train of thoughts. But Name, do you have like anything to say on this topic?
I have a Mimi thing to say. Speaking of like veering into far lefty stuff, what you're talking about, Senpai, the theory of people as they grow more comfortable, they're more capable of thinking more compassionately. The first time I encountered that thought was in an anarcho-communist's writings, Kropotkin, who in the 19th century theorized that
that guy.
basically, yeah, you know of him. Okay, he has this idea that basically as we grow more comfortable in our lives, our idea of a tribe expands. So you look back to prehistorical times, your tribe is literally just like your close family. You're fighting other tribes over resources. But as we have more resources, as we have better ways of exploiting them, etc., the tribe expands. It becomes a city. It becomes a country. Hopefully one day it becomes the entirety of humanity. I think this logic even applies to. This is completely off topic. I'm so sorry, but I think the logic even applies to like why like it's privileged people who tend to be more vegetarian and vegan, because they have this comfort from which they can be like, well, I actually don't like those other living beings. I actually identify them as being part of my tribe of all living things, and I don't want them to suffer. Anyways, sorry.
Oh, that's cute.
But when we talk about luxury, like you can never acclimate to starving, right? But you can acclimate to luxury. So I would assume that like having a certain level of comfort, you can provide with like a universal basic income. But like yeah, this is like if you go above that like poverty line, right? It might be you at that point you just make people acclimate to luxury, and they wouldn't like necessarily become even more compassionate with that. Wouldn't you agree? Like,
well, they wouldn't be getting those luxuries because the universal basic income isn't enough for them to live luxuriously. So then the thing about universal basic income is its goal is to eliminate poverty, and the moral idea behind it is that everybody deserves to live. Now, people will say that everybody has the right to live, but whether or not they're actually able to live is a different question. And I think we could all agree, and I think everybody with 2 brain cells can agree that you need money to live. And some people just have a tough time getting that, whether or not it's because they have like health issues or body issues, or they just happen to be born in the wrong era, or they got laid off and they don't have the necessary skills for the modern times in order to get a new job, or like things are getting automated. Like that was a huge thing, automation. And then it turned into the pandemic. Like what happens when people just can't work at all? Well, then how are people going to get money in order to live? Well, they can't unless they want to get sick.
If you have to choose between people having more freedom and people being able to live better, which would you choose, Senpaicha?
Freedom or living better? I
Well-
think those. I think those two are correlated. I'm one of
Yeah,
those.
so-
I'm one of those like people who is like freedom is one of the most important goods.
Mm-hmm.
That's
So
kind of like
the
one of my
statement you've just
philosophies.
been giving seems at odds with earlier when we were talking about like, well, you're talking about like programs you want to get rid of that you think would be redundant. You want to get rid of like food stamps or something. And if
Yeah.
someone like
I
doesn't
don't think
spend their money to have like enough food and nutrients, you didn't seem to care because you gave them the freedom. So like,
Yes. So then I guess like the next step after. Okay. So first is okay, like what is the should? Okay, people should be able to live. Okay, in order to live, they have to have money. So universal basic income, that's where it comes down to. But then in order for people to actually live their best lives, they have to make certain decisions. And one of those decisions just happens to be spend your money wisely. Now, going into the third tier, I don't know how any of us could do that unless there was this proposed policy before, which was you're going to have an advisor, or if you spend your money irresponsibly, then you're going to have somebody who is able to intervene and do things, and then we're going to have a system behind that makes sure that those interventionists aren't going to be abusing, blah 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 blah, things like that. I'm perfectly fine adopting that, but we see like at each different tier there is a proposed solution and then another problem. And like me personally, if it wasn't for that idea, I don't know what I would have done in order to like get people to spend money in a certain way. And I wasn't willing to let the tier before. I wasn't willing to let that go because of the problem of the third tier.
wait, I feel like you did let that tier go. So your first tier was having money to survive, and your second tier is then freedom to do stuff with that. But if that
Yeah.
freedom threatens the first tier, you let the first tier go. You said, well, I gave them freedom, and if they didn't buy food, let them starve. So you did sacrifice the tier below it for the tier above
Yes,
it
and then I
already.
changed my mind. If I
Oh.
wasn't clear, I changed my mind.
Okay.
Or in that I changed my mind because along this panel there was a policy that I actually really liked that addressed the problem.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
So
Very nice.
I wanna talk about like UBI and electability. Because I think it's fair enough
Mhm.
to talk about some policies and see how feasible they could be within like the political sphere. So
Hell yeah.
so Senpaicha, what are your thoughts on this one? Or-
When it comes to politics and getting this passed, I think it is not as feasible as other things. The reason, one reason being, is that it's such a large policy, and I think policies that tend to be larger tend to not have, or they're not as easily able to pass because they're just so grand. And multiple people have tried to run on universal basic income, most notably Andrew Yang. He also ran for mayor recently, and he had a watered down version of UBI, which was not universal, and I would argue was not basic enough. But okay, you're dealing with a New York City budget. It's a lot of people. It's also yeah, it's tough. Blah 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 blah. At first, and I think though Andrew Yang mayor's race is still a really interesting case study, because it just goes to show that when it comes to politics, it's a lot more than arguing for the policy. It's also kind of betting when people are going to actually care. So in the beginning of the mayor race, Andrew Yang was polling at like 30% first place, and these were including people who were undecided. And then slowly but surely, months later, his poll numbers started to drop. And people say, and I think this is the reason, is that as the pandemic its effects started to lessen and lessen, and the economy was opening back up, and people were starting to get jobs, people were not as into the idea of getting money than before, when they didn't have the jobs, when there was lockdowns, et cetera, et cetera. And then added onto that was the rise in crime because of summer, and that people in New York City started to care more about crime than the coronavirus. And then, okay, Eric Adams gets elected for other reasons. So it just goes to show that when it comes to elected ability, there are multiple factors, and policy is just one of them. The other thing is just like the people who are voting, the people who are, what are they called? Whatever. When it comes to like the electorate, that's the word that I was looking for. Hell yeah. I was thinking about elective. I was so close. But anyways, when it comes to like national polls on universal basic income, it's like neck and neck of like people who oppose it or people who are in a favor of it. It's not like a huge lead, but then like even policies that have huge leads, when they're given like a poll of a single issue, say like I think like Medicare for all, when they're being polled on a single issue poll, it gets like really high approval. But then whether or not like do people actually, when they go to the polls, when they actually go to vote, do they actually think about Medicare for all as their number one policy? No, because conservatives are like, yeah, it's a good thing, but I would rather vote for my dude who is going to be backing Trump, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, okay. Elysium?
Yeah, so when it comes to electability, I think just saying the words means testing saves you like a huge headache in dealing with the electorate. Even though in effect, is like when we started, like this means testing would be targeting like 60 to 80,000 annual income range, not like the man, some of our current means testing is like so fucking low to like you can be making $20,000 and you're like dropping off benefits left and right, and so like your incentive to make more money is hampered so hard. But like in effect, you can basically have the practical side of UBI of hitting people and not get into as many of the debate traps around universality.
Yeah, okay. So, name, what about you?
Yeah, I feel like if we're going to talk about the electability of the policy, we have to mention the one version of UBI that none of us really want like discussed, which is it's the like right-wing version of it, which is the one where you throw away all social welfare and you only keep UBI, where the literature on that subject usually mentions the fact that most UBI programs would cost roughly as much, but like a bit less than social welfare programs for the standard like revenue ideas. That one seems to really play into typical like right-wing ideology, right? The money's it's not free money, it's money that already was there. It's everyone pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, all that sorts of stuff. I don't see how a more like welfare state version of UBI, which goes through say like an added VAT, how you can compromise on across the left and right on that. I don't see how you can reconcile both those ideas of a supplementary UBI or replacement UBI. They're so completely different, and there's like completely different approaches to how you view the role of government and what it's supposed to offer society. I don't think there will ever be a reachable compromise on that, which is a big issue for implementing it in reality.
Yeah, despite me arguing in favor of UBI, when it comes to electability, what Naaman says, I 100% agree with. The coalitions that are necessary in order to get a policy like this to be passed is very hard to make because it is so universal. You know what? Like people like means testing. They really do because maybe like people are just wired in this way of like, oh, if there's a problem, there's a specific solution for it. And like no matter how many times I would like to argue against that like it's just not as good as people make it out to be. What can I do?
I think there's like an emotional attachment too. It becomes this thing of like, you don't want to see someone get something that you don't think they deserve. Even if it's irrational, even if it's even if like studies will show that the means testing itself costs more than whatever fraud there is, or like making the means testing larger, etc. There are plenty of studies on that in the social welfare states that show that there's too much means testing, but politically it's so hard to have that message because of the like intuitive ethics of it that go against how most people think about it.
Yeah, and I think what this really brings up really well is what are the other options in order to combat income insecurity, which is really what universal basic income, or that's one of the problems universal basic income targets. So then I think one policy that can actually is not as good, okay, but it's more passable, it's more electable, is tax credits. Because you're going to have both conservatives and liberals support that.
You could have like a negative income tax as well, or that could be like a thing. But
so so tax credits typically don't go into like the negative income stuff. There's some interesting stuff about this for America, because America does do a lot more on like the tax credit sides than other countries when it comes to its current like welfare stuff, and it tends to just favor wealthier people very heavily, because if you're already poor, you're already not engaging with the tax system, and so the only people that end up utilizing them or like who can effectively utilize them are people who are already well off.
Well, that depends if you have like a negative income tax, right?
I guess going into negative level, it could change, but
yeah,
that's I feel like that's gonna be a harder sell than just a welfare system.
Well, you could have like certain, like in the Netherlands, it might be like a harder sell within like the US, but you have rent subsidies. So basically, where I live, it costs €700 a month. But because of my income, I get like €300 in rent subsidies. So
then the reason why it is a better sell is because it sells to conservatives, which, let's be fair here, I would say are the main reason as to why America is not as progressive, for obvious reasons, is that they're conservative. Duh. So then, and then like what is the logic that goes through a conservative mind when it comes to tax credit is that, well, the money's already there, they're already earning it, they're just going to be paying less in taxes. Or like it's along the same lines of tax cuts, but then it wouldn't be tax cuts for the rich. It would be tax cuts for the poor.
Yeah, that obviously makes sense. Like if you like that's pretty much the only tax cuts that you want to make, and tax cuts for the rich and trickle down economy or whatever you want to call it. It's like fucking lame. Yeah. So Dame, what's your thoughts about this?
Well, just talking about taxes again, it reminded me of something. I didn't want to mention it earlier because it felt like a big aside, and also Senpai mentioned like actual a study that I wasn't aware of, that because when we're talking about VAT, it reminded me of a Cato Institute, which is like a right-wing American think tank. You probably are aware of it. There's this funny Cato Institute article where they're like, Sweden isn't socialist. Sweden is actually capitalist, and they completely gloss over the national health insurance. They're like, oh, that doesn't really matter. Anyways, they do bring up something that I thought was interesting, which is the idea that VAT is basically going to target people who spend money every day, and in that, they argue that VAT is a tax of the poor and the middle class versus whereas wealthy people, they would have so much income that a lot of where their money will go like into investment assets, things that aren't touched by VAT, or even they'll set up corporate schemes where corporations usually don't have plenty of ways of not paying the VAT or passing it on to the cost of their products, etc. But like I trust Senpai's statement that the calculations were made and that the way Yang formulated the VAT, it would cost. It would be a tax for the rich. Obviously, it depends on specific numbers, etc. But I thought that this idea that VAT is can be seen as a tax of the poor and the middle class makes some sense and should maybe be brought up at some point. But
yeah,
like,
so
it depends on the specifics in the end.
So I think it's like absolutely like a meme that definitely like left leaning people like to push that say like that it is a regressive tax. I definitely don't believe in that, and definitely when you talk about the corporations, there's no way to get around the value added tax. There is just no way. So to say that this is like a regressive tax, I think that's it's kind of basic. Also, it's like a really effective tax because you cannot get around it. So if you were to have like a wealth tax that being implemented in several countries within Europe, it didn't work out because they could just skirt the way around them because of like obviously things that what you were saying. At some point, even if you're gonna put your money into investments, those investments need to pay value added tax, right? So yeah. So, but Chow, what's your thought on this one?
It's basically what you said.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, okay. So a lot of these arguments revolve like the proportion of a person's income going into these taxes can be regressive.
Yeah, that's the idea.
I don't know if I have a strong opinion on it. Yeah.
Sorry?
I don't really have a strong opinion, but yeah.
Okay. So, do you guys have something else around like the UBI topic that you guys want to talk about?
I think covered most stuff. One of my last questions I have, there are like some markets that people are afraid would just like, so if we raise the floor of society, how probable is it that certain markets can just, increase their price to match that new floor instead of it actually adding value for people? Like how big of a concern do you guys see that as versus not an actual concern?
I am not as concerned. I see when people get money, prices go to increase. I see that as a natural cause of, or I see that as natural inflation, basic economics, in my opinion. Now, when it comes to like drastic increases of prices, like that's something that like we could, that's when we start getting worried, because we don't want to eliminate all the stuff that all the good stuff that you get from universal basic income. But another economic concept that I would put my money on is the prices are sticky oftentimes. And what I mean by that is that prices usually don't fluctuate that much because people know, or like people get used to the prices. And when people get used to the prices and then it suddenly gets more expensive, they're like, oh boy, I'm not going to buy this, or I'm not going to, they change their mind or something. The one thing that this doesn't work on, that's like really special, of course, is gas. Okay, gas could go really high or really low, but people need that stuff because there's no other choice. But other than that, things like rent is a really sticky price.
Wait, why is rent sticky?
What?
Why is rent a sticky price?
They just found that as it is. Could probably maybe you know what? I was told this by people who studied economics, but you know what? Let's Google it.
Yeah, it probably depends on where you live, but I know that like living in Paris, like real estate is crazy here. So that doesn't fit what I know of like how real estate works, at least in this city. I imagine it's like
So-
also case by case basis thing.
So let's say you get like a UBI. Would you think that if you get like €1,000 UBI, would you think that the rent would skyrocket like €1,000 if it was possible within the legal system? Or
I think
maybe have like rent control or something. I don't know.
yeah, actually, like France has like pretty strict regulations around rent and stuff. Honestly, the way it was formulated on this panel, where you have like just going back to like economics 101, UBI isn't funded by money printer going burr. It's funded by money circulating in the economy, of a value added tax. Concretely, it should not cause inflation. It's redistribution of wealth. It's not printing money. There will be like a psychological effect for sure, where at first people like anyone selling a product will be like, okay, like I want to get that money going into my company. But you could also then argue that they're like competing for that money. Like in a healthy market where there's competition, I don't see that being like a big issue, honestly. One thing that I did want to address that we mentioned really quick, but wasn't really a big subject, actually, I just thought of it at the last minute, is automation. I don't like UBI as a solution for automation, not because it doesn't necessarily address the problems of automation, but rather that I see big downsides in just leaving it at that and being like, oh, UBI, all right, so we can automate everything. The main downsides I see is if we imagine a future where automation becomes a really significant factor, specific steps would be, for example, automating all motor vehicles. That would represent, I knew the statistic off the top of my head like a year or two back, how much of a percentage of the workforce that would lay off almost immediately. It's insane. And those aren't people that are necessarily going to be able to find another other job, convert to another type of workforce, etc. I don't think people who get laid off by automation deserve to be on basic income. This also goes back to something Chinchilla mentioned when he was talking about luxuries. There are studies on income increasing happiness and well, like the quality of life up to a very specific point. Past that point, you're literally in luxury. You're what Chinchilla was describing, where you anything you gain past that point is just short-term momentary joy. You're not finding more fulfillment, more joy in life. You're not finding more time to do the things that matter to you. But under that specific point, every little bit of money helps you accomplish what you want from life on like average. There's like studies on that. So I think that in a society that is looking forward towards a significant portion of its workforce not being able to work in any form or manner, having them to be on universal income, you need to look at much larger, much higher payment points, or ones that would still work without overdue inflation, etc. That's like a huge paradigm shift that I don't think basic income prepares us for necessarily.
Naaman. Okay,
Yeah.
I like you, so don't fuck up when you answer this question. Okay. Does
Wow.
universal basic income address a secondary issue from automation, and what is that secondary issue?
So it addresses the fact that the people laid off do get. It mitigates the issue. I don't think it addresses it fully, right? So
okay, what is the so there's a we could see that automation's primary issue is people getting laid off. What is the secondary issue? And I'm going to answer my own question. Okay. The secondary issue is income insecurity. It's people not having jobs because they're getting replaced by robots. Okay, that is what universal basic income deals with. It doesn't deal with the primary issue. Universal basic income isn't going to destroy the robots. It's not going to get the jobs back, but it is going to give people money so that they have some sort of a basic monetary ability in order to live their lives and not be in the shit. Yes?
Yeah.
So like here again is another example of taking universal basic income and expecting it to solve every single problem in this whole goddamn fucking entire world.
Look, I fully agree with you. Like that's the thing that annoys me. But I understand no one here at the panel did that, and I'm not like looking to strawman you or anyone else. It's just that I've heard people say I'm pro universal basic income and expecting and then when I ask them why, they say exactly that they expect it to fully address the problems of automation. It's a common talking point, unfortunately, out there in the world. That we didn't bring up because I think like at least you and I agree that it doesn't fix that problem. But a lot of people don't necessarily think it through in the same way.
Yes, I agree. Okay, it's a good nitpick.
So what about like rent? Like I gave the example to name Manor, right? Like if you increase, if you live in Manhattan,
I found a PowerPoint.
If you live in Manhattan, right, and you get like a UBI, wouldn't that just mean that the prices of your rent would skyrocket with
no,
$1,000
because this is how rent works, at least in the United States, and I hope rent works this way throughout the world. Is that it's a contract, okay? You can't just raise the prices, and typically when you do raise the prices, people they're either going to stay there because they can afford it, or they're going to leave. They're going to find someplace else. And because of the fear of people leaving, as well as people knowing like what they're going to be paying for, like I'm pretty sure both tenants and landlords, maybe I'm giving too much credit. I don't think people are as stupid to not realize when they're overbuying or when they're overselling. And I also found this one thing on Google that about 90% of units in the data set had no change in rents per year, indicating that rent stickiness is 3 times as high as in the United States in comparison to Japan. So then so basically price stickiness when it comes to rent is a thing.
Well, okay, so the question comes not in like if there's going to be some crazy changes in like to the system. It's just if you have people making more if people have hit their basic needs and they're able to be now saving money and stuff, they're going to be wanting the demand in the housing market and the renting market is going to increase.
Yeah,
so the prices would reflect that.
Yes, right? That is true. Except it's okay. So
it's a question of how much.
I have no idea if like what you're saying is implying that once there's universal basic income, all the prices are just going to change to the point in which now like the poverty line is $24,000. Because that's how much prices are going to increase. Like I have no.
You wouldn't expect it. You wouldn't expect it to be like a 1-to-1 increase.
Okay, prices always increase. They always do because of rise in demand when people are going to be getting like prices increases. People see price increases because raises into the minimum wage.
Yeah. So the question is, how much of a price increase relative to our UBI would be acceptable? Does that make sense? So if the demand for renting is going up drastically, then like.
Well, here's the thing: it wouldn't matter unless if you didn't have your UBI rise with inflation. So I would think that's a problem if it didn't rise with inflation. But if it does rise with inflation, then A-okay, yeah.
No, it's a question of the floor rising up in gentrification. Is like when people talk about this. Does that make sense? So like if we make
everybody's getting the money, what's being gentrified?
Because now the market is more competitive. Everyone has that increase, and the people that can apply all of that increase to their housing demand are going to be able to like get the better housing than people who can only apply half of that income, say. Does that make sense? So if I have needs that are going to consume half of my UBI, and then the other half of it can go to improving living conditions and luxury goods. One of these is going to be like location. Yeah.
Yeah,
Versus someone who
people
has
at different
these
levels have different needs, and they're going to be spending their money differently. Like I
Mhm.
can see that. I can see how people will say that that's unequal, but universal basic income doesn't propose to solve inequality because everybody's getting the $1,000 a month. What it does,
Yeah.
though, is that it gives money, even though it's the same amount of money to everybody. We could all agree that people who are at the lower end of the income spectrum are going to have a lot more uses to that money than somebody who is at the other end of the spectrum,
Yes.
because that's marginal benefit.
So now the people say I'm living in a wherever I'm in a lower income bracket. I'm living somewhere, but now people from a higher income bracket who have more expenditures, the price of living around me is going up, or like the housing market around me is going up. Do you see like how some people could be priced out of areas then? Even more so than it currently is, or the other side to this would be our
my
social
hope would be is that like everybody has this universal basic income and has a better ability to better their lives. And what I mean by better their lives is like I'm not just expecting to give everybody $1,000 a month and expecting them to be that what they have, because what I'm hoping is that they're going to get a job, or they're going to make some investments, or they're going to somehow use this money to invest in themselves in order to grow themselves. And so like even if there's going to be surrounding around you an inflation, which is like from gentrification, sure,
not an inflation.
my hope would be is that they're going to be doing that to themselves as well. Is that like everybody is going to be rising.
Okay.
Yeah, so when it comes to the prices rising comparable to the UBI, I honestly like I picked like the topic of like urban city because I would assume that it's like the most high demand over there to live there. But I can see also happening that if you get like $1,000 a month, you would actually be able to live further away from the city because now you can travel, you can buy a car or
Hell
something
yeah,
along.
suburbia.
So yeah. So yeah.
Or now they have the ability to move.
Yeah, exactly.
They could go to Texas, where everybody's going.
Yeah.
My last question that I'm curious if we'll have some thoughts about, because it hopefully we'll touch on some of these things. So like right now, we have like a lot of like assistance programs for stuff, for like paying rent and things like that. If well, first I'm assuming we're not going to get rid of these, right?
Assistance for rent.
Yeah. Okay. So like for rent and
sure.
utilities, you can get a lot of aid from the government. If someone isn't paying their rent or utilities, can it be taken out of their UBI?
Oh, could the wages be garnished, you mean?
Yeah.
No, what the fuck? Hell no.
There's actually something. Oh, sorry.
Because that defeats the purpose. That defeats the whole point of a universal basic income.
Do you take issue with how it's done right now like that?
We don't even have universal basic income that could be garnished.
No, like so if someone's not paying their rent,
I'm pretty sure that's illegal.
He means garnishing, like, so someone's wages.
So if someone's not paying certain types of bills, it can be taken
I'm
straight
pretty
from their
sure that's
salary.
illegal.
It's happens currently.
Okay, it happens. I'm not okay with it. And because, like, am I going to... I don't know what you want me to do. When I say it's
so
illegal...
if I'm a utility company and someone doesn't pay their bill, what do you think should happen?
Yeah, you ought to go to jail. You ought to get sued in hell in court. What the fuck?
You go to jail for not paying your bill?
Huh? No, you garnishing. You go to jail for that. You said you're the utility company. Holy moly.
Yeah. Okay. So if
I'm not okay with this. Okay.
I'm not. I'm asking a hypothetical. It's not. We're moving on from that. What should happen is what I'm saying. If someone is not paying the utility bill, what should happen?
I think this is unrelated. Honestly, I think that if
Thank
you talk
you.
about like having debt, but you can entertain that topic if you want to. But it's like if you have like debt, right? It doesn't mean that it should be necessarily get straight from your UBI. Like honestly, again, if you have like some major problems, you can have like a program wherein you get like some other person to control your UBI, whatever we
think-
talked about earlier. But I think if you
Mhm.
talk just about like debt, if you didn't pay your subscription for Pornhub, that you now get that ripped out of your bank account or something.
Do you think there are some debts that should be ripped out of your bank account though? Or does that happen in the Netherlands?
No, it happens to the extent that if you don't do that, the like tax, the only thing that can happen to, I would assume that if you don't pay your taxes over time, you get like a lot of problems with it, and then it can be ripped out of your bank account. But that's only if you don't pay it for like a year or so. But then you basically you risk jail time as well. But yeah,
So-
I don't think it's like when you talk about paying utilities, like honestly, like or pay for your house. Basically, you can just evict somebody in that case, right? Or you can
Can a
shut off
utility
like the
company
water.
refuse? Yeah, can they just like refuse service?
Yeah.
In
So if you don't pay
Um,
your electricity for like a couple of months, your electricity gets shut off.
during the winter, do you have programs where it's illegal for companies to shut off the electricity?
Well, it doesn't get that cold here, so I would assume that we have that.
Ooh, it can
Yeah,
get
okay.
cold. Come on.
All right,
doesn't-
guys. The
it doesn't
solution
yet.
is global warming. Okay,
Yes.
let's just
Yeah.
eliminate the
Let's go.
coals.
Let's
Let's
go.
breathe. Let's breathe, guys.
What if there's only like one or two options for utility companies in like a city and stuff? They're allowed to refuse service to different people.
Sorry, there's only like two different like utility companies, or
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were to start paying again, you would get your utility back. Okay, your
What if-
electricity.
Okay, so someone is incapable of making, good decisions with their life, and they're not able to pay these bills. They've also racked up a lot of debt on these bills, which happens.
Yeah, then you get the whole ordeal that I already talked about. Then you would get somebody that makes those decisions for you.
Makes those decisions.
Legally.
Okay, so barring a system where someone gets to take over your finances, because that I think would be a very hard sell in a lot of countries outside of the Netherlands. What do you
Well-
think should happen, or do you think we should advocate for a social worker gets to take over your finances?
Yeah, if you don't want to do that, obviously you have like different ways of addressing that topic, right? Then
Well, okay, the
You would-
current yeah, to
yeah.
clarify, the current way is your wages can be garnished, or your taxes can be taken directly from like any of the ways that the government is giving you money. Not any, very few of the ways, and it's only a very few things like rent and utilities have access to stuff like this.
It is the garnishing is not pretty much the same thing if to put somebody under like a social worker. Isn't that like are you at this
Yeah.
point he's pretty much doing the same, right?
Well,
It's
no,
very
because you're,
similar.
you're not controlling the rest of their income. You're only controlling the
Yeah.
part that you're garnishing, right?
So I guess one of like the unintended consequences of this is like whenever the government does have a fine or something on you, it can take it from that money. And this has expanded to a lot more debts than just like utility and rent. So when we talk about like the modern bail system, it has kind of mutated into a way that the government recoups a lot of debt. And not even businesses recoup a lot of debt through the bail system, because once someone has to post bail, that money is in the hands of the government and you can get access to it before it goes back to that person. Does that make sense? So now that we're like having a UBI system, this is a lot more times where the government has access to that money before it's in the hands of that person. And unless we have like some pretty strict rules around who can ever access that money, I can see how this can turn very similar to how bail operates now in like its debt collection, essentially.
Well, I'm also in a big favor of eliminating cash bail, so I guess it works out.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
I was
now
gonna
your
mention
UBI
bail
is
is
just
like a-
replacing that. Do you understand what I'm saying? How is it not going to operate in the
Why would
same
they
way?
replace it?
Because now instead of the
If
bail
I'm-
being when the
if
government
I'm
has access to the
eliminating
money,
cash
it's
bail
UBI.
because I'm replacing it with taking it out from UBI. No, I wouldn't support that. I would just completely eliminate the concept of cash bail to the point in that it's not even necessary for anybody to have to pay bail.
Okay,
So
so
that
the
you
bail's
wouldn't
not the problem
need
here.
to-
It's when the government has funds of a person before with like outside that person's control is when companies
Yeah, that should be
and
made illegal. That's stupid as fuck.
okay, so then what do you do for the utility company?
You make that illegal too. What?
No, not okay. So a person doesn't pay their bill, doesn't pay their utility bill. They don't pay their rent. What do you like?
That's right.
What's the solution?
The solution is that if they don't want to pay rent and they don't want to pay their bill, then they're not going to get those services.
So again, we're heading back to previously, where now their first order needs are not being met, but their second order freedom is being met, and you seem very okay with that. So people freezing to death in the winter, people dying from heat stroke.
Listen, if
And so-
somebody wants to jump off the cliff, and like, what am I going to have to blame the government because they didn't stop that person from jumping off the cliff?
If you want to compare this to jumping off a cliff, yes.
Yeah,
But I
isn't,
don't think
like
this is
in most countries illegal to commit suicide.
Can I butt in? I want to mention something because those problems happen to be addressed in under French law. So, for example, with wage garnishing, there are hard limits to how much money you can take from someone, regardless of whatever debt they have. You can take a lot of money away from someone, but if someone has under certain wealth limits, not even the government can touch it. You can be like, you can owe a fucking $1 million in taxes if you don't own enough. If the government considers that they're gonna dip into the minimum, like a minimum basic like survival needs of you, they can't touch that money.
And what happens to the landlord or the utility company?
Well, France happens to have laws that are very favorable to renters. They're done so intentionally. They're supposed to balance out the power imbalance between someone owning like the roof over your head. Maybe there are abuses that happen, but for example, then we go back to like rent and utilities. It's illegal to evict someone in winter in France. It's just outright illegal. If someone stops paying on a specific date, I don't remember like like the legal winter. They can not pay during the entirety of winter. They'll still owe you that money. It's not like a get out of jail free card.
It's that collection now, though. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which is its own hassle, and the eviction process will only happen once winter ends.
Okay. So like, and that is fine in French society.
Yeah, it's I'm. Obviously, there's tension. Like people who make their living off of renting houses. There's lots of horror stories about renters abusing those policies to be able to live rent free, stuff like that. I personally, honestly, I think for the most part, those policies. First off, the intention is obviously humane. The intention is good, and for the most part, they protect people who probably need protection, even though there are like problems with them. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. Obviously we're talking about like very on the scale of like say like socialist to bootstraps. We're way far into the socialist side of legislation.
No, but I think like how we do with a lot of stuff, I think there should be if the government's giving someone money and you're not paying your basic needs, it should be able to be taken directly out of that UBI before you have control over it. Or, man, the Netherlands approach is so extreme. But yeah, at some point there's like a consideration that, hey, you need like
It's
financial advice before you can do stuff.
It's extreme for extreme cases. So in that
Okay,
sense,
so yeah, but in the non-extreme cases,
it doesn't happen. So when you talk about the non-extreme cases, it's just like, well, dude, you can pay your fucking utility. Why aren't you fucking paying your utility bills? So now you don't get any utilities.
yeah, but if that's having, I guess like, okay, what if there's a heat wave and someone can't run their AC because they have no electricity and people
No
are
one
dying?
has AC in Europe.
No
Yeah,
one
true,
has AC. No one has AC.
Literally, no one has AC at home in Europe.
Like you're gonna eventually
no one
need
has
this.
AC. In
You're
Europe.
gonna have to get it. I guess you'll deal with it when you get to it. I guess.
Yep.
Fuck it.
Pretty
No
much.
one
Okay.
has AC.
Okay. Fucking dummies. Europe.
Pepe
No,
laugh.
but I think it's like a fair question to ask yourself if you have like a UBI and you have like a certain debt, right, that you need to pay up. Do you need that paid? Do you need to pay that from your UBI, and therefore like
I think
basically
there needs
don't
to be
have, like,
protection. Yeah, there needs to be protection that doesn't happen because right now
Yeah.
we like specify a very few things that can be wage garnished,
exactly.
but that allows other systems like that's why bail
Student
came up.
loans.
Now bail is like a debt collection service to a lot of people that have gotten themselves access to bail that aren't those strict utilities and rent and stuff. So like if UBI got opened up to being debt collection, I think it would like become a very negative policy, if that makes sense. Or what's the word for when you're preying on some predatory? There we go.
I like the idea of exempting UBI from wage garnishing, honestly. Like, having listened to this back and forth, I think I'm really warming up to the idea of exempting it.
Hell yeah.
But then what do you
It's
do for the
based.
utility and the rent? Like,
What do you do when someone doesn't have UBI and they don't pay it? Like,
it gets
they're-
garnished.
yeah, it'll get garnished from whatever wages they make on top of the UBI. Because
Oh, okay. Okay, I understand.
because UBI is like going back to the start of the conversation. The UBI is still really low, right? We're talking about a percentage. What was it, like 80% of the poverty line was an idea. Some other ideas could be like a percentage of minimum wage. We're talking about, well, basic income. We're not talking about someone like fucking getting like 30k a year and being like, hey, I don't need to pay anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Chow, how would you like address this issue? Like,
I really like this panel this time because it's really making me think or like be really creative about addressing some issues. Like, instead of just like what I typically do is like, okay, I'm okay with dealing with that problem for the sake of another thing. But then, like, for example, like not evicting people if it's renter, like make that shit illegal. Holy moly.
Wait, can you clarify that statement just so I understand what you're saying?
That's what name said.
Yeah, that's what Naaman
they
said.
do in
So like
France.
I think that's a really creative way to address the issue. Is to like, okay, well, instead of thinking within the realm of should it be garnished, should it not be garnished, well, we could like have this roundabout way of eliminating it by just saying, okay, don't evict people if it's winter. You have to wait until like a certain time before you could actually kick somebody out because it's for the sake of someone's life.
It's not like all roses because now when you do that stuff, a lot of people don't pay their electric bill in the winter because
oh my god, what the fuck do you want me to do?
I'm just
okay. There's a problem, and then all of a sudden there are a million more. Of course, it's like that. But then, like at that point, I think I would rather I would be much better knowing that this policy did not have a person freezing outside than a person who is like, oh no, my money, what can I do? I guess like when it comes to issues, when it comes to like when it comes to a person who is using rent in order to live and like that's their only form of income, then that becomes a problem. What then could be put on top of a UBI if it's like really necessary, but I don't think it would be. I really would just like expect people to use their UBI in order to pay off that utility.
So if you were to go with the whole friend system, where you can say like, well, you cannot be affected in the winter months, then you could also argue, well, because the fact that you cannot be affected within the winter months, we should be able to garnish that on like within the UBI. I think that would be like a fair call then, right? Would be to stop people like basically like trying to exploit something. Or
So
do
like
you guys
doing
agree?
one or the other, you mean, right?
If you going to go with like the friend system and say like, well, you cannot be affected in the winter, or you cannot get your utilities closed off, right? This should be like the other side of the coin should be like, well, then it should be possible to garnish that from the UBI. Would you guys agree with that, or?
I'd have to think about it.
Like automatically garnished?
Well, I don't know how you don't do that automatically, but yes.
Or like forced UBI, or like forced garnishment, or mandatory garnishment. Like it's like you have to do it. Okay, it's basically coercive. It's a hard policy.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, right? When you talk about garnish, that it's like kind of forced. That's, or
okay.
would you say that it's not forced?
So like, I am totally on the fence of no, because that goes against the freedom. But I also don't think that's a problem. Okay, like this is just me with guesswork and me making the assumption that like if people are going to have issues with like utilities or rents and they have this UBI and they're not going to pay for it, like that's what it's for. So like I think
Yeah,
I think
that's
people
what
are
it's
just going to
for,
use.
right?
I don't think it's a problem. I
Just
think
because
people
that's
are
what
just
it's
going-
for
I
does
think-
not
I
mean
think
that's
people-
what people
I think-
use it for.
Look, I think people are just going to spend it like in like, I guess like, I don't think that many. I think people are dumb. I don't think they're that dumb.
Well,
I don't think they're that dumb to be like, I have
not
this
about-
money and I'm not going to pay your rent.
It's not about it's because it's not about being dumb. It's about once someone is okay with being poor for the rest of their life, your like your decisions that you make are completely different. Like your incentive structures are completely different. So it becomes like it's a huge cost benefit where there's a lot of times where if you have access to money right now, I mean you can make really fair arguments that, hey, I should spend like I'm never going to get an opportunity to buy this luxury good again because I will never have access to this much capital at one time. Like it's very unlikely.
Universal basic income occurs monthly. Of course you're going to. That's the whole point of universal basic income, is that it's not one time.
But yeah,
So
I don't know
yeah,
how.
I just want to walk Chris and cocaine. That's just my thing, That's, no, but I definitely think that there might be like dumb people, but yeah.
No, I don't think they're dumb. I really don't like.
Dumb, but
Yeah,
I think because what you're talking about is when you're. I think it's relevant. What you're talking about when you're saying like people who are poor. We're basically talking about alienation, right? So, someone who doesn't feel alienated from society, they're going to be fine with like playing by the rules because they understand that the rules also protect and benefit them, right? The whole like social contract, etc. But someone who's been fucked over by society, like you said, they're not going to want to play by the rules. They're going to want to play by their needs, by their immediate wants. Probably more short-term thinking, etc.
I don't know that's necessarily been fucked over by society. Well, okay, sure.
Well,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
like
yeah.
systemically, not
Yeah,
intentionally.
okay,
but,
yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Right when I was disagreeing with, I understood what you meant. Okay. I agree.
And well, what I'm trying to get at is that there probably will be friction for like early implementations of UBI where people are coming from that mindset into this new paradigm. But long term, I think it would be fair to argue that UBI should at the very least mitigate most
Over
of that
time?
happening
Okay.
in society
I
over
could see
time,
that.
right? A lot less people are going to be alienated as they have that like safety, like income safety from UBI, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
do you guys think that, like, when we talk about long-term effects of UBI, do you think that there is going to be like a mindset in the sense that in the Netherlands we have like certain families that lived off welfare generation upon generation upon generation, and they're not productive, and every kid they get is most likely to end up in welfare as well. Do you think there might be a danger in like a psychology like element, or do you guys think that's just irrelevant? What do you guys think? Is it possible that people get lazy, basically?
And it's hereditary.
I think or it's hereditary. No, I think that's an unfounded claim.
Yeah.
I already discussed this before, and I already made the references that I needed to make. Yeah, it's just conservatives being really scared that, oh my God, they're America. The American dream of working hard and getting rich is kind of getting destroyed by the moral implications of this policy.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's definitely what you say, but I could see like generations over generation that there could be like a mindset change that you might want to say like just do things easier, just go slow or stuff like that. So there might be something there, but just not for like maybe one generation.
Well, you know what, Chinchilla? Okay, when 100 years pass, you could give me a Discord call, okay?
Yeah, we will.
I'm waiting to hear Neyman, because I'm curious about this from the European perspective, because I only know of like welfare trap dialogue from the American conversation.
Oh, we get the same thing. It's obviously the Overton window is much more skewed towards welfare. Chinchilla mentioned it, I think, last time, how basically the way it works here is that conservatives don't really talk about abolishing welfare. What they do talk about is the inefficiencies of welfare, about scaling it down, about like, oh, look, this program has this much fraud, this program has those problems, like maybe increasing means testing, playing into certain means testing basically becomes like kind of like a populist argument, like we were talking about earlier. The intuitive ethics of it and the general population are going to play into it a lot.
How would means testing apply? That doesn't make sense, because the whole problem is someone's in a welfare trap. Then what are you means testing there to get them out off of welfare? Means testing isn't like you only get it for a certain amount of time before you need employment, or what?
No, sorry, I was veering off topic. I was talking about the conservative perspective on welfare in general.
Okay. Or I thought. Okay, that makes sense now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because you don't I don't know about the Netherlands, but you don't really hear people being like abolish the whole welfare system. That's not a popular enough idea to even on the conservative side to work.
No, and it would be such an undertaking, to be fair as well, that even like conservatives don't like to change that much, right? They aren't like, conservatives are not known for changing stuff, so a lot of things are actually like set within their conservative mindset. So even if they want to slowly like cripple the whole system when it comes to welfare, they wouldn't like straight up like abolish the whole thing, because that wouldn't fit their conservative mindset. Also, like generally, what the tactics are is like what we talked about last time. It's like underfunding, then say it's not efficient, then decentralize it, do it again.
Death spiral.
And then a death spiral. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So do we have like any other questions based on this topic that we still haven't covered, guys? Ciao.
Well, no, I'm good.
You good? Are you sure? Are you sure, man?
I'm sure.
Okay.
I think I've talked enough about universal based income.
Based.
Yeah, hookers and cocaine. Let's go, guys. No, just kidding. But anyway, so this was it for this week, like the lib praxis debate. We do this every week, apparently. So yeah, thanks for all you guys, like in the chat, of course, and Neyman Senpai Chow and Elysium. These guys stream as well. So check them out. Last question for you guys. Do you have like a topic that you want to discuss like next week?
I haven't thought of one yet.
Wow, you always
think-
throw this, and it gets me
Yeah.
every single time. I feel so
Yeah,
bad.
at this point you should know. You know?
Yeah, we
It's
should
like,
have prepared.
you should like you should just say, well, socialism versus capitalism. No, just kidding. But so maybe we could do a topic around like Trias Politica. So
What
it's
is that?
basically about
English? Hello?
Trias Politica. So that's Latin. But anyways, the three powers, like the executive branch, the legal branch. So how you wanna basically what kind of system you
You mean
prefer?
checks and
then-
balances?
Checks and balances.
Separation of powers. Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much.
Okay.
Checks and balances. Maybe you guys find that interesting because I know that Europe has like different systems, and even the US has like a system that's more based on the legal. Like the Supreme Court has the last word, right? Generally speaking. So yeah, so that might be, you might prefer democracy, like, or the legal system, or whatever you want to argue about, right? So
Wait, this feels like this feels like really broad. It can be like
yeah,
narrow it down to like a few examples that we're talking about, or I don't know. I don't know how to prepare for something like this.
If we narrow it down, I would like to narrow it down to like a specific issue, like maybe something that happened that brings up a larger issue with checks and balances, or I don't have anything off the
Is
top
the
of my head.
executive
But
branch getting too powerful?
yeah, like finding an IRL example of that, and then like discussing how did it happen, how did democracy fail, etc.
Yeah, but now
so
like, okay.
what was Chow? What was your example?
Is the executive branch getting too powerful?
Yeah.
This is an actual thing, by the way.
Yeah,
for
so
America, like what's the European analogous? Like, is the prime minister considered the executive branch?
Yeah.
I think
That depends on
honestly,
the country.
like I think we can because there is like more regulation in most countries, right? So there is more like of an executive branch. There is like more power invested in that. So I think might
Okay, all right. Libertarian Chow is coming out. Okay, well, according to the founders, they intended to make the legislative branch the most powerful branch. Okay, the executive, they were just supposed to do stuff. But then as time passed on and the legislative branch just kept on giving the executive branch more stuff to do, and then they started to declare war. Like, for example, the legislative branch has the ability to declare war, but they haven't declared war since World War II. And we've been getting to blah, 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 blah. Okay, you get the gist of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's why the executive branch is getting more powerful. And that's why it's a legitimate discussion.
Yeah, but what's like the European version?
Didn't they already answer that?
Yeah, so the European version is, first of all, that we have more governmental like bodies. So we have like on the European level, we still have the European Parliament, but we have like a body of like already elected officials from the nation states. We have like different other kinds of bodies that aren't like democratic, which are from like the executive branch of the.
How about we say between America, France, and the Netherlands? Does that work? That makes sense.
Well, that wouldn't really work because you might want to talk about like Europe as well, right? It's like,
Shit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. We got
no,
enough.
but
to go on,
it's
I feel like, maybe.
basically because you have like more regulations. It's
Okay.
like I think the executive branch gets more power.
It's gonna be very different based off which example.
Yeah,
we're
we
talking
can.
about, but
Yeah.
Okay.
I can. I mean, I can entertain the American discussion as well, right? Or am I not allowed? Like, are you?
Not a lot. Yeah.
Only
some-
America.
Only, yeah. Thank you for gatekeeping. Ciao.
And I know we can like try research it, see if we can find interesting aspects in European governments that touch on this, or we can just research the U.S. example. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so for our Americans, right, there's nothing outside of America, right? That's basically what's important.
I mean, there's like the wasteland, but we don't really think about it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you guys think. So, Semper
Yeah.
Chow, are you going to keep on streaming or are you going to quit?
I'm gonna keep on streaming for a little bit because I want to play this game a little bit more. So yeah.
So I'm gonna
get a chin raid.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Semper Chow and give him much loves and kisses if he
Mwah.
consents to that. So yeah, so I might want to ask that first. So yeah, so thank you guys
No,
for.
I'm not gay.
Too bad. But anyways, thank you guys for hanging out. So there you go. Let's go to Chow. So this was it. So thank you guys again.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
great
us.
discussion. Love this.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, we don't have to shout to each other all the time, you know? It's a possibility.
No.
So next time we're gonna shout again, okay?
Okay.
No, just kidding.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's a good discussion. I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah.
All right.
See ya. Have a good
See ya.
one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a good discussion. I thought, I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I agree with Senpai Chow. That was actually based. Sharing a podcast with a filthy debate gamer, I know, right? I mean, am I any better, in truth? I don't think I am. Okay, I need to do something. Got her. All right. Do I actually want to stream? I kind of feel like you are a sex-craved debate gamer. True. You are at least fully engaged on the call. Yeah, I was. For sure. I think I've been fully engaged in the previous panels as well. All right, time to rename my stream post podcast coitus as usual. I was dreading it a little bit because I was so fucking tired today. I didn't think I was gonna have the energy to like pay attention and think about things, but it worked out. Unless you reveal that you've got Google Glass and you've been swiping the entire time. I really, like an hour or two into it, I really wanted to get up and make some tea. It's just it's just the optics of it are so bad. But it doesn't actually matter because I have the wireless headphones. I can still hear everything that's going on. It's just it really looks bad to have to see a panel and someone just like stands up and walks away. Which brings me to the subject of I'm gonna stand up, walk away, and make myself some tea. Oh shit! Senpai Chow is playing what's its name? Stellaris. Damn, son. Awesome. I think I'll like chat a bit and then go raid him too. But first I'm gonna make some tea. Music while we're making tea? Question mark. Let's do this. Fuck it, homie. Especially there's times where you're not getting a break to interject, so fuck it, use this time to get some of the basic needs. Yeah, that's fair enough. I honestly, the solution to that would just be brewing enough tea to get by for 3 hours, because this is a 3-hour long podcast basically. It starts at 10 and ends at anywhere between like midnight and 1. So like one of my big cups isn't gonna be enough. That's what I gotta fix for next time. Ugh, man, separation of, oh, we actually touched upon something I wanted to research again. The whole, like, Belt and Road Initiative thing. I had a discussion last weekend, since if we're gonna, like, talk politics. I had a discussion last weekend, about, or I suppose calling for a 10-minute break or whatevs. Yeah, well, that's where I don't want that either, because, like I said, I got the headphones. Like, I'm still in the conversation, you know what I mean? I just can't respond, but like you said, there's plenty of moments where I'm just listening to someone. I'm not gonna cut them off. I don't like doing that in general, even though I was kind of doing it a bit this time. I don't like doing it. Yeah, but yeah, it's not all about you. Yes, it is. Think about the needs of your fellow people. I mean, they can do it too. They can just get up and do things too. Anyways, I wanted to. There's something that I got into a discussion with a friend of my friend at her birthday last weekend about the Belt and Road Initiative, China's Belt and Road Initiative, and he was talking about the debt trap. How and I have like such conflicting info on it. There's like Australian right-wing think tanks that argue that the debt trap is a myth. Well, sorry, not the debt trap is a myth, but that the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative debt trap is a myth. I just felt I wanted to revisit it. Yeah, yes, classic birthday party chat. Yeah, I'm that guy. I've been trying to scale it down, but I'm that guy who at some point at a party spends like an hour talking about some random fucking politics with some other dude. It's a flaw. It's not something I'm proud of, honestly. Anyways, because I remember Turnit sent me this Atlantico article a while back about one of the common debt trap examples cited to criticize China. The article is literally called "The Chinese Debt Trap is a Myth." Not Atlantico, the Atlantic. And it's based on actual research from think tanks. It's an interesting article to read, and I remembered reading the article, but I didn't remember the specific reasons why it advances this thesis. So like, oh, I still have the names up on stream. So like, I really wanted to revisit the article and revisit the research on both sides as well. The research that claims that China is creating debt traps for developing countries using the Road and Belt Initiative. I wanted to do like a prolonged research stream at some point on the subject and try to synthesize the arguments for and against this idea. What are the biases of the different agents? Pushing one narrative over another, try to like sort out what the fuck is going on with this, because I like genuinely am so confused. And I like the guy I was discussing it with, he did not have. I'm sorry to say, I know he's not watching, but like I really wanted at some point to get into that, but I didn't want to ruin the part, waste my time at the party either. Like, he had a really flawed perception of what life is like in China. Fuck it, dude, just generalize China. What could go wrong? He got at least a 50-50 shot at being right. Yeah. It's just because like we were started talking about China, and he's like talking. I was talking. We were talking about censorship. Then the topic moved on to different subjects. You know how it is when talking about stuff with people, especially in a less structured environment where you don't have chinchilla to focus you back on the subject properly. So this guy, I'm telling about how like I'm talking to a friend of my friend in China who's like pro Chinese regime, and we're discussing censorship and specifically the perception of China's perception of criticism directed towards it, and how in turn it creates this unintended effect. Because basically this guy, his argument was the West has no business telling us how we run our society, how we live our lives. To which I responded, I like flipped the argument around to him. In that case, don't you think it's wrong that when China has such economic sway over the decisions of Western companies, that it gets people fired? Because we, in our countries, decide that it's okay for citizens, for workers to criticize things. So, like, maybe we can agree on something where, like, the companies shouldn't criticize you, but should you get workers fired in our countries? Isn't that, like, the very same, exactly what you're complaining about, that Western countries, accusing Western countries of doing to you? Aren't you now pushing your ideas on us? And my friend was like, "Oh my god, that was so risky talking about that with someone in China. You like never know who could be." I was like, "Oh, come on, seriously." I didn't say that because I didn't want to be like obnoxious about it. But in my brain, I just went like, "Come on." Like you're literally imagining fucking like Jason Bourne type like. I don't know what he's imagining, but that's not the reality there. And like the funniest part to me then is that because he was like, I was like, come on, it wasn't private, with a friend, and he was like, well, still, like, where did you talk about? I was like, we had a discussion in a restaurant. And he was, oh, come on, that's super dangerous, dude. No one fucking speaks English. You're in some random restaurant where every single order needs to go through the Chinese dude because he's the only one who can read the menu and the only one who can communicate with the waiters, and like we're the only people at the restaurant. I don't know. It's like the Western person. I'm not pro Chinese regime. I fucking hate authoritarianism, but people have this weird image of what life is like under the CCP that is not the reality that I've seen at all. It's very I don't know how to bridge that gap. Sounds like they confuse China with North Korea. Yeah, like what kind of movie do you think I was living in at that point? And so then we get back to the Belt and Road Initiative, where he's like, depth trap, they're like seizing property all across the world. I don't think that's what's happening. I've been doing some small research in my free time this week on the subject, and I'm not convinced on it. But I want to do some like more in-depth research and maybe do it on stream and just like to like properly structure it and do it publicly, etc. I'm just not convinced on it at the moment. I need to read more on it though, because mostly, I'll admit, mostly what I've been reading up till now was the criticism of the depth trap hypothesis. I need to read the pro depth trap hypothesis arguments and see if they're actually addressed by the critics or not. So that's something I want to do at some point. I don't know when or if I'll do it, because it's obviously time consuming as well, and I don't know how interesting that is as far as streaming content goes either. I've had successful like reading research streams, but usually it's on more memey topics than like in-depth for foreign policy of this or that government and economic policy and like stuff like that. I think the high point of me reading like random PDFs on the internet was when that one bullshit thesis where it had a quote on this guy, and the quote had like a typo with an apostrophe that made him look like an orc warlock from the Warcraft universe. That's the most important part that I remember from like reading random shit on the internet. Dude, I'm gonna play Nekopara on stream. Catboy's Paradise. It has to happen. It's not gonna happen now, But it has to happen. This is absolutely on the schedule now. I love it. All right, I'm tired. And I'm gonna have to work tomorrow, so I think I'll just raid Senpai Chao. Gotta you know, participate in the what's it called? Well, the, you know, the fucking community. Pass the views around. Yeah, let's go. Creator dashboard. All right, watch him for a bit. He's a cool duder. Or don't if you don't want to, but you know, he is a cool duder. Where is it? Oh yeah, raid channel. Yeah, let's raid Asmongold. Oh, I said N Senpai. There we go. It's playing Stellaris. I don't know how the fuck to pronounce it. One viewer, 3 viewers. Wow. All right. Let's get him. All right, bye-bye.